zeitgeist flair to the costumes. I mean, nothing anachronistic, but where does 1869 and 1969 meet? Especially when it comes to you, Caleb. First off, I want to give him a mustache.
MCTV News to Minister of Energy Stuart Young went unanswered, and he also did not respond to any of the messages sent either. In other news, this evening, Attorney at Law Prakash Ramadar, representing the families of the 4 deceased divers, says they have finally received correspondence from Paria Fuel Trading as they move forward with the litigation process. Earlier this month, Energy Minister Stuart Young said the Commission of Inquiry will consist of Justice Cecil Dennis Morrison and local subsea specialist Gregory Wilson.
As I say, we are in the preparatory stages, and we'll make decisions as we get there further. Let me also say that we received correspondence from the attorneys for Paria that they are working towards applications that we had made a couple of weeks back. So we await their response.
Ramadar, a former Member of Parliament and Minister of Legal Affairs, says since the story has gotten international publicity, many have reached out to him offering expert advice on pursuing the case. Many
persons from all over the world have reached out to experts in this area. We are working towards the quickest possible period to do that, but at the same time ensuring that our preparation is rigid. So having regard to that, we will make it known as soon as we are ready to proceed.
And while Cabinet took a decision to appoint Ramesh Lawrence Maharaj as lead counsel to the Commission, who will be assisted by attorneys Ronnie Bisessa and Vijaya Maharaj. However, Ramadar adds while he understands the Commission of Inquiry into the matter might take some time, their intention remains in bringing the matter into the High Court.
Publicly information, but that is not to be unexpected. You would imagine it will take some time for a secretariat to be created and so I'm not too troubled by that. Of course, I know the country will be aware of that. Our position is, however, that we are preparing ourselves to file an action in the High Court, where we would be making our claim against whomever might have liabilities at process. So that's where we are focused upon at this point in time.
The voice of Attorney at Law Prakash Ramadar. Coming up next, roads in San Francisco are in dire need of repairs and the residents have been protesting for more than a decade. Stay with us, details as we return.
News on MCTV.
Facade Food King Lent Season of Savings Sale starts Monday, 14th March. Take control of your savings this Lenten season with over 100 deals you trust and use every day. Facade Food King is conveniently located at Manson Road, Miao, Tabakit Road, Buclaro, New Grand Junction, Marabella, 2 stores in Princestown and 2 stores in Point Fortin. Facade Food King is committed to caring for you like family during these tough times by ensuring you get the best quality products at the most affordable prices. Sale ends April 18th.
In spite of the pandemic, our courts are meeting daily. On a weekly basis almost, we have decisions being handed down which have the potential to affect you in your day-to-day lives. On the social contract, we critically examine these decisions and let you know what, if any, impact they have on you. My name is Michael Ruplau. I am your host of the Social Contract and Multicultural Television.
Alexa, can you play my song, please?
Every day across Trinidad, Flow is connecting communities near and far. Our dedicated teams are always working to keep you connected to the world beyond your doorstep. Improving internet accessibility across Trinidad, one home at a time.
At Flow, we work hard for you, so you work hard for your family on the largest high-speed network.
connecting you to more every day with Flow.
The universal message of peace. Assalamu alaikum. Join me 3 p.m. every Friday on Multicultural Television as we discuss the issues from the perspective of Islam and Muslims. Let us unravel our culture and our history as we cultivate peace through dialogue in multicultural Trinidad and Tobago. Time is drawing nigh. It is high time we face the reality only on Muslim Reality.
Hi guys, I'm Candice Barrett-Nahus and I'm your host of Everything Woman, coming to you every week on a Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. right here on NCTV. So check us out every week where we talk about hard-hitting topics that affect us as women in our society. We're going to have real, honest, open, raw discussions that you really want to be part of and you don't want to miss. Check us out every Wednesday at 7 p.m. right here on NCTV.
News on MCTV.
Welcome back to 6 o'clock news on MCTV and U97.5 Hot Like Pepper Multicultural Radio. Roads in San Francisco are in dire need of repairs and the residents have been protesting for more than a decade, pleading with the authorities, but their cries have fallen on deaf ears, it seems. Trisha Ramkalawan tells us more.
This has been the cry of the residents of the San Francisco area for the past decade. They have been pleading with authorities to fix the bad roads and landslips in the area. These 3 landslips are all located within mere walking distance of each other in San Francisco, South Trinidad. This one happened overnight as a result of heavy rainfall, whereas the other 2 developed gradually over time. Member of Parliament for Oropuch West, Devendranath Tanku, raised the issue last October in a Standing Finance Committee meeting in Parliament. However, Minister of Works and Transport Rohan Sinanan indicated that the landslide did not fit the description of a major development.
I can tell you that the Permanent Secretary have taken notes, but again, it is based on but this program is not for this type of landslips that you have. This is for major landslips.
Minister, with due respect, these are major landslips.
Well,
the road has now caved away.
Concerned residents Carissa Nanan as well as fellow residents have garnered the support of MP Tanku.
Good evening and welcome to douglAR Radio Live on U97.5 FM. I want to thank my brother for starting off Corky. Wherever you are, where you boy Corky, we just had a start just so. I hope we sounding good. Check me out and make sure we on. Once we on, we good. Thank you, my brother. So good evening. Yeah, you can go back to your news once I on there. All right, we on check 1. Right, good evening and welcome to douglAR Radio. You're live. I have some questions because I see a PNM man trying to defend what Rowley did was not misbehavior in public office. All right. Let me try. Eliminate personalities, okay? Because, like, when you ball PNM and Rowley and thing like stick does break and people brain does stop operating. There is something called the Police Service Commission. Let me start at the beginning. We try to be a democracy in Trinidad and Tobago. We try to be. We have a constitution, a Republican constitution, which is based on the tenets of a laissez-faire economy, democracy, the power of the vote, and consists of different areas of government. There's the elected government that the people select through elections. That's the executive. You have the Parliament that is made up of elected representatives and the Senate that is made up of selected representatives from the elected representatives. Within the governance structure, there are also independent arms such as the judiciary, and what the tenets of independence are very important. You see, everyone is considered innocent until proven guilty, and anybody functioning in the judiciary who has great power to take away your freedom, and in a democracy, freedom is the most important right. So if someone has that power, they have to wield that power very jealously, they have to hold it very tight and stick to the rule of law, be impartial, be able to hear and listen to evidence, right? They have to be able to do lots of these things. And if they are biased or balanced or imbalanced, and right, then they won't be able to do their job properly. Thank you, my brother. Yes. I hope you all it looking good. We fix up late. Corky, if you're on your way, tilt it back solid like it wobbled. Yeah. Lean it. Yeah. Right. You good there? Archie, tell me if it's good. Right. Or come down a little bit. Right. That's all right. We'll go so for now until Corky reach. So, you are if you're in the judiciary, excellent. Thank you, my brother. If you're in the judiciary, you have to be independent. You can't have any biases. You can't be one-sided. And you can't be conflicted. So if you're a magistrate or a judge, a high court judge, court of appeal justice, if you are conflicted in any way or you know someone who's coming before you, you recuse yourself. It's just simple. Okay? Then there are different independent institutions within the governance structure, like permanent secretaries are supposed to be independent. They are the main accounting officer to keep the executive in check. So as a minister, you have the general control and direction of the ministry, but a minister can't buy a pen or a pack of cards or a pack of nuts. What the minister can do is say that we'd like to buy certain types of nuts for our population because the policy is that we need to increase our protein content, and some of the nuts that we have, whether with the saturated oils and the fats and the lipids, produce a better cognitive response. That's the policy that comes from the minister. The permanent secretary will then say, okay, minister, well, this is the way you go about implementing that policy that comes from the cabinet with a cabinet note and then confirmed with a cabinet minute, a pink piece of paper that shows the permanent secretary that the cabinet has approved that policy, and the permanent secretary must now move forward with that policy within the ambits of the finance rules, the corporate governance structure, propriety, tenders, value for money, and so on. So when you have interference in independent institutions by the executive who's in charge of most of the money, then your democracy becomes watered down. If your democracy becomes drowned, where every independent institution does not function and is influenced by one political team, that being the government, the executive in charge, then you have no democracy. So when we are talking about the Police Service Commission, these people are to act totally independently of any other arm of the state. There is to be absolutely no interaction, no influence, no interference, no letter writing, no whispering, no intervention, no meetings, no suggestions, no instructions. There is to be none between the executive, which is the Prime Minister and his cabinet, and the Police Service Commission in the function of their duty. End of story. Once there was interference, influence, intervening, and instruction, that is misbehavior in public office. End of story. In misbehavior in public office occurs when someone holding public office uses their power and their influence to influence or to force another public official to do something that is to their benefit, to influence them to act, to take a decision in which the other public official will receive benefit. That's misbehavior in public office. It's breaching many different laws. One of them is Section 26 of the Integrity in Public Life Act. So if Keith Christopher Rowley, the Prime Minister, he is the highest executive public office paid for by your taxpayer money, sworn on the Bible to do his job without fear or favor, malice or ill will. if Keith Christopher Rowley, as he has admitted, lost confidence or does not like a holder of an independent office, and he takes it upon himself to get involved in the process before he is constitutionally allowed to do, because remember, he is constitutionally allowed to do so when the merit list arrives at Parliament. Then and there, and only then and there, can he then interfere, influence, decide, and determine where the process goes from the Parliament. Any interaction before that by the Prime Minister, who's a member of Parliament and the head of the executive, is misbehavior in public office if it achieves the goal that he intended. Now, had Bliss C. Prasad done her job, and when she received the first letter, the second letter, or the third letter from the Prime Minister, if she had written him a very polite letter saying, Honorable Prime Minister, with all due respect, this communication is inappropriate. If there's any information on any candidate before us, we will make sure and get it from any legal authority with legitimate investigatory powers. Thank you there, sir. In other words, hush your mouth, do not interfere here. This is not your concern. I am doing my duty to my country and my job as an independent chair of the Police Service Commission. When Rowley, how did Rowley find out the merit list was by the president? That in itself requires lots of questions to be asked by the police. Because Keith Rowley, was it a coincidence that he landed up there the same time at the president's house when the merit list was there, and when Bliss C. Prasad was there? That was all coincidence. The president, who has her public office, her duty to do, and her duty is very clear under Section 123(4). When the Police Service Commission duly goes through about their business and creates a merit list, and the majority of the Police Service Commission sign off and say, we hereby agree to this list, and it is delivered to the president shall deliver it to Parliament. That's her job. She's just to deliver it. She's not to open it, not to check it, not to know when it reached, how it reached, where it reached. Just deliver it to the Parliament. End of story. Something happened that caused the president to breach Section 123(4) of the Constitution. That something is Keith Christopher Rowley, by his own admission. He admitted that he went there, and he tried to tell you all sorts of rational reasons, from it's his duty to keep the president informed, to he is his high official, to I never tell all it wasn't me, it is me, I went there, I talked there. Then he said I didn't do anything to stop any list, but the list did not move. The list did not move on to where it shall be handed over to the Parliament. The list was taken back. So, Rowley has confessed that it was him. The president said that the list came, and later she allowed it to be withdrawn by the chairman, Bliss C. Prasad. So therefore, there was a list. It was complete. The Independent Police Service Commission completed the list. The job was done. The list was then removed from where it was supposed to be and taken back, withdrawn. That is misbehavior in public office, because the Prime Minister, Keith Christopher Rowley, did not want Gary Griffith at the top of the list. He has stated that. He did not have confidence in Gary Griffith, because Gary Griffith was rude, he was obnoxious, he didn't know how to talk to the people. Then, after the list went back, Rowley then came up with this FUL discussion, and this FUL, some private citizen that he as a national security head, National Security Council. Now, some of you all believe that this National Security Council is some kind of body that investigates and has some authority and power and independence. It's absolutely not. It's a PNM party group. It's a cabinet group. It's just like cabinet. All it is there for is to create policy, to create and get information and give policy direction, because the government's crime fighting policy is XYZ. Now, under the PNM, this meeting should be very short, because them are fighting no crime. But the National Security Council is not the Commissioner of Police Office, the fraud squad, the Bureau of Standards, the PCA, the DPP. It's not. It is simply an amalgam of politicians sitting down there. And this amalgam of politicians found a friend and tell them to give you something. That's all your business. That has no local standard, no efficacy, no power, no authority. Anything written there and not signed by one or two is irrelevant. A report in these matters has to come from a constitutionally authorized investigatory body. However, let's get back to the brass tacks. Rowley said it was him. And when Rowley interfered, intervened, interfaced, and influenced, two public officials did what they were not supposed to do. The first one being the President, Her Excellency, who was not supposed to let anybody come back and take back any list. She shall deliver the list to Parliament. So Rowley influenced the President to do something that benefited Rowley. Rowley didn't want Gary. Rowley didn't like Gary. Rowley didn't find Gary is disrespectful. Rowley lost confidence in Gary. Rowley didn't want Gary. And Gary was at the top of the list. So Rowley got his benefit by getting the President to breach Section 123(4) of the Constitution. That is misbehavior in public office. So for you PNM who don't understand, some of y'all may never understand, because Balize soak in your brain and brain stop sparking when Balize juice around, like a wet spark plug. Then, also, Rowley's intervention at that time caused another public official, Bliss Sipasad, to do what was not her duty. Her duty was signed, sealed, delivered, and ended with the delivery of the list to the President. For Bliss Sipasad to go and take back a list, Rowley influenced the Police Service Commission chairperson to do something that Rowley benefited from, which was the withdrawal of the merit list, which had Gary Griffith on top. Now, this is not an issue about Gary Griffith or anybody. This is a simple constitutional legal matter on reading the laws and the actions confessed to by Rowley. If y'all PNM are sad that it's a PNM and it's Rowley, I'm sorry for y'all, but y'all, that's what y'all selected as your leader. I can't help all you. So, all of this nonsense. And now we have DCP Jacobs. And we're in a position where DCP Jacobs, the acting commissioner of police, the man who also benefited from Rowley's misbehavior in public office, who was elevated, who did not even apply for the commissioner of police work. And the last time that he applied, he finished 6th. Right? 5 other people blow he out. But he is now the man in charge. Selected by Rowley, who thwarted the merit list to ensure that Gary Griffith did not get his job. And now DCP Jacobs is there. And that's why you will be hearing nonsense from DCP Jacobs like, oh, we need Gary Griffith to come and make a report and make us say, don't need that. Rowley said, I was at President's house. The merit list was at President's house. Rowley visited there and Bliss Sipasad somehow got back the merit list and took it back. You don't need no report. You have to investigate that because that amounts to misbehavior in public office. End of story. The Commissioner of Police don't need permission to go and investigate. Secondly, DCP Jacob. And to Trinidad and Tobago. This is not no hard, complex investigation, you know. This investigation simply requires 4 interviews. 4 or less, but 4 if you really want to have a stone cold solid case. The police just need to contact Bliss Sipasad and question her and ask her, Madam former chairperson of the Police Service Commission, why did you take back the list? That's it. On August 11th, after the list, now if you want to go into the real legal ramification, like you lawyers, you can ask her, were you the chairperson of the Police Service Commission on this date, on the 10th of August, 2021, did you and your other police service commissioners conduct interviews? You could go through all of that, right? But the real answer you want is to this one question. Blissy Prasad, why did you go back to President's house and withdraw the merit list that you delivered earlier that day? End of story. And when she answers, that's it. Charge Rowley. Blissy Prasad, I'm now going to ask you and all members of the media out there, I'm asking you, Blissy Prasad. Blissy Prasad, did Keith Christopher Rowley instruct you to take back the merit list? And before you answer, Blissy Prasad, before you answer, because you know Anil don't make joke. Before Anil open him out, he just check, double check, triple check, investigate, get sources. So before you run to answer, Blissy Prasad, because lying to police is a crime too, eh? So be very careful when police ask you. Excuse me, please. So, Blissy Prasad, before you answer, let me ask you it this way. Did you attend the annual general meeting of the Queen's Park Cricket Club earlier this year? Yes or no, Madam Blissy Prasad? And Blissy Prasad, while there, did you have a couple, I have it as two glasses of Prosecco, and three glasses of red wine? Blissy Prasad, did you involve and interact with members of the Queen's Park Cricket Club at this annual general meeting? Blissy Prasad, while you were conversing especially with a particular two members of the Queen's Park Cricket Club, did you divulge to them when the topic came up about the merit list? And as you know, Gary Griffith is a member of the Queen's Park Cricket Club for decades. Blissy Prasad, did you divulge to these two particular members that it was in fact Keith Christopher Rowley, the Honorable Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, who instructed you, and that's your word, that's your word, not Anil word, not the douglAR word, your word, duly noted, that it was Keith Christopher Rowley who instructed you to withdraw the merit list? Blissy Prasad are waiting. And to members of the media are waiting. Why don't you all just ask Blissy Prasad that? Blissy Prasad, are you on record of having told citizens at the Queen's Park Oval AGM earlier this year? Now, Bliss, if you lie, it's a man who afraid subpoena and thing, you know. And man don't like to go to court, but it's a man who know, and when you ask them are lying for nobody. Them go tell the truth. So, Blissy Prasad, did Keith Christopher Rowley instruct you to withdraw the merit list? Simple question. Blissy Prasad is not done there for you yet. Because there are more people, Bliss. You see, Bliss, you will get thrown under the bus by Rowley. But only the truth could set you free, Bliss. Hear this one, Bliss. What did you tell your fellow police service commissioners when you brought back the list? What did you tell them? What did you tell Courtney McNish when he thought his work was done? He had done his interviews, he had done his selection, you all had discussed, and you all created a merit list based on points, based on your best work, and Courtney McNish signed off and said, I agree with this order of merit list. What did you tell Mr. Courtney McNish when you brought back his work? And he said, well, wait, now I finished that work, I done that, I ready to relax. What did you tell former police service commissioner Courtney McNish? Blissy Prasad. Blissy Prasad, What did you tell former Police Service Commissioner Roger K. Walsing when you brought back a list that he had worked so hard on? He had gone through all the interviews, done the research, done the background check, scored, and signed off on an order of merit list. And his job was finished. The list had been delivered to the office of the president, going to Parliament. Time for Roger K. Walsing to spend some time with his lovely family. What did you tell Roger K. Walsing, Bliss C. Prasad, when you brought back the list? Miss Bliss C. Prasad, what did you tell former Commissioner Dr. Craig James when Dr. Craig James had worked so hard, conducted interviews, background checks, looked at resumes, checked track records, looked at reports, looked at a score sheet, done over to do her due diligence and her duty as a police service commissioner, and she signed off on an order of merit list, and her job was done. Time for Dr. James to spend time doing her normal duty and take care of her family. And the list was sent to the president's house, job complete by the Police Service Commission. List to go to Parliament and let Parliament handle it from there. What did you tell Dr. Craig James when you brought back the list to them? Bliss. Now, Bliss, jail and nice, eh? Jail and nice, Bliss. And don't think that because you have police at the highest echelons who are now beholden to the executive and the government, and they're playing games and not doing their duty, talking nonsense about a report from Gary. Gary gave you an instruction, DCP Jacob, when Gary was still acting commissioner in October 2021. He told you to investigate that. Why did you fail to follow a legal, legitimate order from your superior officer, DCP Jacob? Now you're telling me nonsense about Gary Griffith. There's nothing to do with Gary Griffith. It could have been Harry Hamsaran. It could have been Ronnie Rockerroll. It does not matter. The name and the individual does not matter. It's the process, the breach of the separation of powers, the breach of the law, the breach of the Constitution. Rowley's interfering, interfacing, intervening, influencing other public officials to do his bidding. That's the law. And jail ain't nice. And no amount of shimmy-dimmy, gallery, try to ignore can remove that. So Bliss C. Prasad, what did you tell your police service commissioners when you brought back a list that they had completed, their job was done? What will you tell them? And I put it to you, Bliss C. Prasad, that you told them the truth. I put it to you, Bliss C. Prasad, that when you brought back the list, you said some clear, precise words on who instructed you to withdraw the list, Bliss C. Prasad. What you feel, you go just stay quiet from now for the rest of your life? Really? That's how it works? That's the democracy? 218-7762. Okay. Good evening, my brother.
Boy, good evening. I bust an next tire again, boy.
In a pothole.
Yeah.
You see?
Watch me.
No, they see what I go tell you. Take the calls, take the calls.
Yeah.
Them PNM may go come and buy back your tire, you know. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, gentlemen.
Talk to me.
Now, Robert, I have 3 quick questions.
Yeah.
And I wish you would address all.
Yeah.
Now, how could anyone, including the Prime Minister, know who was on that list and whether, in fact, Gary Griffith was at the top of the list? How could he know that? That is
Correct, one.
And 2, if it is that the Prime Minister has committed some breach and has misbehaving in public office by influencing or interfering with that merit list, which body or which person is responsible for taking action, legal action against the Prime Minister?
Right.
And if they are not taking action, that body, what could the citizens or anybody in the citizenry do to have that matter investigated and bring the Prime Minister to justice? And 3, if it is that the investigation that the Prime Minister talks about with the FUL, if it is that Gary Griffith and the investigation is found by a court of law culpable, could the Police Service Commission now rescind that appointment of the Commissioner of Police?
Thank you, my brother. Let me answer them 1, 2, 3. Number 1, that's the point. Rowley should not have known anything. But Rowley has admitted that he didn't want Gary Griffith there. Rowley has admitted that he went down to the president's house when the merit list was there. And Rowley has admitted that he interfered, interfaced, and influenced what took place there. So the question that Rowley needs to answer is, how did you know what the list, one, that the list was complete? Who tell you that not your business? You are only to know that when you're supposed to get an order from the parliament saying time to debate the merit list, look the merit list there on the order paper, because the president would have sent the list to the clerk of the house to be debated. Rowley not supposed to know who are the top of the list. It's an independent institution, so your questions are valid. How Rowley know the list was complete, and how Rowley know Gary Griffith was at the top of the list? Second one, it is for the police to investigate Rowley. The police is in charge of investigating all laws of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. The police. And if the police don't do their job, well, boy, I don't know. We can't really do anything. That's how sad it is. Okay? But the society, members of society, the legal profession, senior counsel, former retired, former justices, former magistrates, law professors, they are the ones, and the mass media are the ones to keep the pressure to ensure that the police do their work. But really and truly, DCP Jacobs should recuse himself because he has been a beneficiary of the crime. Because he is now acting commissioner of police, whereas if there was no influence, interference, intervening, or influence and misbehavior in public office, he would not be the commissioner of police acting. Right. So he had to recuse himself because he is conflicted. And thirdly, what's the third one you had say? I talked so much on the first two, but I think I touched the third one also. All right? So those are your critical answers. Hello, good evening.
Welcome back, Anil. Long time I hear. This is Sahina, Sara, Roti, and Tomato Choka.
What's happening, my brother Sahina and Tomato Choka?
Right. Listen to this. With Bliss, the Prez, and Rowley. Rowley, the Prime Minister apparently met with Bliss at the President's house, and I'm not too sure if he gave her instruction to pull it back there. But if, for thinking outside the box, if the list went to the president.
Not if, it went.
Right.
The president
and
said it went.
Somebody from that office said, look, we have a list with all of these people. And he jump in the car and he come up. To
President's house, yes.
Right, to hook Bliss until Bliss take it back. So somebody, the president, would have informed him, because it appears that he didn't see it up front. Bliss and them didn't pass it on to him.
But that's all speculation. But whether he saw it, whether Bliss tell him, who tell him, the president tell him, who call him, the police had to ask them question. But the fact of the matter is, the list was there, and the list did not reach Parliament. Rowley admitted he intervened, and the list went backwards. I am asking Bliss, what did you tell Kewal Singh? What did you tell McNish? Because I have it from good sources that she said the Prime Minister has instructed me to withdraw the list. And the police need to check to see if what I am saying is correct by asking Bliss, asking Courtney McNish, asking Roger Kewal Singh, asking Dr. Craig James, and asking the two members of the Queen's Park Oval when Bliss had a little drink in she head and had a conversation with them.
But put it this way, you see all them sleeper cells the PNM have working in their interest, they activate them. And as a current holder of that office in the police service is possibly asleep as well.
Well, he's not supposed to sleep because the DCP Jacobs, must recuse himself because he's a beneficiary of the disappearance and the nullification of a list which he was not at the top of or not even on. Hello, good evening.
Anil, the last question was, if at the end of the so-called investigation by the Prime Minister of the Commissioner of Police with the FUL, granting of the FUL license, the Commission was found to be culpable to done something wrong, could the Police Service Commission now come and do away or rescind his appointment as Commissioner of Police now?
No, but he already not the Commissioner of Police. So the question, Gary Griffith is already not the Commissioner of Police. But the point of the matter is, you can't have retroactive action. At the time that August 11th, there was no issue of any FUL anything. So what Keith Rowley did was to whisper in Bliss and the President's ears something that he feel he know, what he feel he know or he hear from. And that in our democracy does not amount to evidence. And even so, if a Prime Minister has that evidence, that is not his job to pass that to the President or to the chairperson of the Independent Police Service Commission. Only people like the police themselves, the Bureau of Standard, the PCA, and so on, can interact as authorized investigatory bodies to give any report on any police officer going before the Police Service Commission. That is not the work of the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister, if he had any report, what he is supposed to do, when the list reaches the Parliament, and he is the Member of Parliament for Dago Martin West, he gets up in the Parliament and says, I have this report from the National Security Council, which is really my council, my cabinet subcommittee, which have no investigation powers, and I tell my brethren them do a little thing, and they produce this thing for me, and this is enough for me to say me I want Gary. That's what he should have done. And no police investigation, no criminal action, no crime, no misbehavior in public office, no charges for Bliss, no charges for the President, no constitutional crisis. Now, why Rowley didn't want to do that? Because Rowley cajon is small. So he tried to do it surreptitiously, quietly, secretly, tried to influence the list, but it came out, it leaked out, it blew out, Kamala bust it out. And that's what happened. And no amount of old talk, no amount of delay can change the situation and the cogent facts that there was a list. The Police Service Commission had done their work. The list was delivered to the President. The President allowed Bliss Sipasa to withdraw the list. Rowley admitted that he went there when the list was simultaneously there, and that he spoke to the President and to Bliss, and the list was removed. Bliss had to tell the other commissioners why she brought back the list, and they need to state and be questioned by police on what Bliss told them when she brought back the list. Good evening.
Good night, Anil.
Good evening.
I want to agree with you. It is ridiculous. Now, Rowley literally acted as a dictator and went and tell them to get out of the list, etc. and so on. Now, the whole thing about it is he could have taken it to Parliament, as you just said, and say, okay, one, strike you out because we don't want you on the list. And then move on to 2 and 3. Why was it, my question to him is, why was it necessary for he to go to tell Blitz to withdraw the list, right? And the President does not have the authority in law to take the list and give it back to Blitz.
Exactly. Say that again. Hold on. Repeat that day. Repeat that, because that's the crux of the matter.
Of course,
repeat that part.
In law, in the Constitution, does not have the right to withdraw the list and give it back to Blitz. She is literally a rubber stamp. Stamp it, say receive so and so date, then stamp it again and say forward it to the Parliament for consideration.
End
she
of story.
clearly would have broken the law. So what is it we need to investigate? We just need to lock up some blasted people.
But the man who is in charge now is a beneficiary of the misbehavior in public office.
Well, of course, I agree with you.
And
100%
he is talking on the issue. He have to recuse himself. He had to come out and say, excuse me, it's from my... I am here today because of whatever took place.
That's
so
right.
I have taken myself out and I put Superintendent Pam Pam Pam, who is not on the detail of Rowley. Right, exactly.
Exactly, because he as you're saying, he is the beneficiary of what happened
and he's conflicted
at the president's house.
Correct.
So it becomes a conflict of interest.
Because before August 11th, he could not be no acting commissioner of police, no economic financial officer, nothing. But after those events, he has risen to a higher pay grade, more power, influence, and control. He is a beneficiary.
And don't forget, at the end of his retirement, he will get a bigger pension.
Yes, well, they buy out his retirement because I think he passed retirement a few months ago and the PNM buy that out too.
So clearly, I mean, confession is the best evidence you can get.
But exactly.
So what it is that the police is waiting on to call in this man for questioning and issue a warrant for his arrest.
End of story.
Because he has confessed.
Correct. And if they want to double check, they just need to ask Bliss 2 questions, ask Kewal Singh 2 questions, ask McNish 2 questions, and Dr. Craig James 2 questions. And if they want backup, ask the 2 gentlemen who was at the Queen's Park Oval AGM who Bliss confessed to.
Well, that's a story by itself. But Bliss should also be charged for misbehavior in public.
But Bliss getting charged first. It's 3 of them going to get charged.
Yes,
1, 2, 3.
Nothing. She does not have the authority. She's not an executive chairman of the Police Service Commission.
Correct.
Where she can make decisions on her own.
Exactly, because
so
the decisions require...
Wait, in a jail somewhere now.
Let me clarify for the population. The decisions of the Police Service Commission require a majority of the Police Service Commission to be enforceable.
That's right.
The merit list was signed off by a majority of the Police Service Commission. And she unilaterally withdraw it? She mad or what?
Of course. So she's supposed to be in a jail sitting somewhere.
Well, I tell she jail and nice. I hope it have makeup. All right. Later. 218-7762. And we are with Corky here. Corky boy, PNM wouldn't buy a tire. How many of you all have ripped apart your tires and rims by the beautiful infrastructure left for you by the People's National Movement under Keith Rowley? If you only blink, you bust your tire and mash up your rim in this country that is in total decay and collapse. Corky working hard for your money. He now have to go and find a $400 to buy a tire. Not so, Corky?
Yes, boy.
Tomorrow you're studying that 400, go burn you.
That hard, boy. And anyhow you try, you pull from one, and then if you pull from one, so our next man trying to bounce you. So
yeah,
it's
exactly.
Crazy,
you know how much accident caused with band dodging potholes?
And they're making an effort to even patch the road a little bit.
And let me tell you something. Go down Royal Castle because you don't have to pay no extra for no condiments, no pepper, no ketchup, no mustard. You pay a thing and you get your chicken and your fries. Royal Castle, no $2 for your condiments.
My parents' generation grew up with Royal Castle. From the first restaurant in 1968, when that distinctive, tempting aroma hit the air, they just couldn't resist. And like never before, fried chicken with a special blend of local seasonings and a one-of-a-kind flavor down to the bone. Today, Royal Castle still have that same delicious taste, and I love it too. The kids can't resist it either. Plus, they have more to enjoy. For me, the castle is more than just nice food. It's we own, part of me and you, and is the real flavor of TNT.
Come to the Waves Restaurant and Bar, Grafton Beach, Black Rock, Tobago. Great ambience, fantastic prices, all COVID protocols observed. Full premium bar available. Call Waves at 731-4646 to make your reservation. Come dine with the Waves Restaurant and Bar, Grafton Beach, Black Rock, Tobago. You must be vaccinated to dine in.
The Grand Coulant Spa Resort at Stonehaven Bay, Blackrock. Bed and breakfast rates available. To book, call 283-2597 or 463-2946. Le Grand Coulon Spa Resort at Stonehaven Bay, Blackrock.
Fresh Street Market, your neighborhood supermarket.
Number 3 Andrew Lane, corner Churchill Roosevelt Highway and Andrew Lane, Derby, Mausica.
Opening hours.
Saturday 7:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Sundays 8 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. When you think about fresh produce and good quality food, come to Fresh Street Market, your neighborhood supermarket.
Number 3 Andrew Lane, corner Churchill Roosevelt Highway and Andrew Lane, Derby, Mausica.
Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Join me, Anthony Jules, on Late Nights with Jules, only on MCTV. New guests every week, activity, games, hot topics, a lot of discussions. You don't want to miss it. Tune in and join me only on MCTV, 9 p.m. Trust me, you don't want to miss this.
Calling every human.
The local Palooza show and countdown. Now showing on MCTV. Hosted by TNT's rock ambassador, Bees High Five, the metal merchant. See and hear all your favorite local rock bands. Keep it rock alive. Rhythms Communications Network. Local Palooza show and countdown on MCTV. The local Palooza show and countdown. Now showing on MCTV.
218-7762. So Bliss Sipasad, what did you tell your fellow police service commissioners when you brought back the list? What did you tell them? You brought back the list because you needed an envelope to find yourself? You brought back the list because you wanted to change the envelope to a pink envelope? You brought back the list that they had worked so hard to sign off on because what? You wanted to change the type of paper? You brought back the list, why? Because there was a typo in the address of the president? Why you brought back what you told them? You had to tell them something very serious. These are big, intelligent, qualified, experienced citizens of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. So Bliss Sipasad, when you brought back the list, what you tell Courtney McNish? Police go and find out, you know. Bliss Sipasad, when you brought back the list, what you tell Roger K. Wildsing, learned attorney? Bliss Sipasad, when you bring back the list, what did you tell Dr. Craig James why you bring back the list? Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Anil. Good evening, Corky, and to everybody out here. You know, Anil, every time this story comes up, well, I feel more and more ashamed of our president. Because she could have done something. She could have said something. And all this thing that is going on now, she's still not saying anything. But I want to see how long Bliss and the president is going to keep quiet for. And I want to ask Vera and them this evening, he and Paul Richards and all of them, you brought the senators to muzzle them, to muzzle them. How are they feeling now to see what it is took place? Vote and go? No, it wasn't vote and go. They had to know what they were voting on. You understand? And look at how all they behaved. Look at what all they did. You all drag the senators through the Senate and wherever all they have to drag them. All through the media. And look at today. And you know what, Anil? Everybody's totally quiet. Nobody's saying a word, right? But Rowley bent backwards to get Gary Griffith into the office. He used a flawed process, right? And now he's bending forward to get him out of there, right? But what you see, the longest rope has an end, and evil don't last forever. And Anil, before I go, I just want to mention something. I want to ask these Carney workers or whoever they refer to themselves as.
No, pause.
Okay.
Don't bring my former Carney workers into that at all. That was Franco men, Vassan Bharat supporters in the UNC.
No, but they said that one of the issues that they raised is why Kamala not giving them the land.
Kamala is not Prime Minister.
Well, this is what I'm trying to say, Anil. Now we had somebody coming on the ground, report this morning and saying why Kamala didn't give we the land. But according to what Monilal said, 8,000 of them got land.
Exactly.
Why no?
It's a process, correct, and it would have been completed by now.
It would have been completed.
But they want Vasant.
But they listen to Rowley. Rowley say, follow me, vote for me, I will give all of the land. Nova Mirage and them, they follow Nova Mirage and all. They didn't want Kamala. No, Kamala not in office. Kamala can't do anything for all year. All they demonizing the lady. And every time, okay, these so-called, quote-unquote, Carolyn people, every time the UNC women have a meeting, all they're going out there to bully them. Is that what all they made of?
And let me tell the little mama pool man who grabbed the female councillor sign.
Yes.
Boy, people have you on footage as a female abuser, your mama pool. You come out again. People. That's all right. Next one,
Anil,
don't worry. Next one, I go make sure we go down and we go walk down with the women.
Anil not only abused the women, he liked to abuse people who are physically disabled.
Different
That's what he liked to do too.
Don't worry.
Have a good evening, Anil.
This kind of clunks. All right, God bless. You roughing up a lady with a sign? Some real mama pool man. Vasanda, your boys and them? Yeah, they following the leader because you is a Nimakra Mama Pool and your supporters is Mama Pool. Hey, Mama Pool follow Mama Pool. Make Mama Pool laugh. Yeah, Vasan. Hello, good evening.
Hey, Anil, good evening.
What's up, man?
Anil, you ever see the series Omen?
The movie, I saw the movie long time ago. Very scary.
Yes. You know, Satan was born and his name was Damien.
Yes.
And you know, he was untouchable.
In that movie, yes.
Yes, but I feel Damien born in this country. I feel Damien run in this country.
I shouldn't laugh, yes, because really it's something weird for true.
Yes, but the thing is,
while it's funny, serious thing. Yeah.
When evil prevails, the country suffers.
And evil prevails, my brother. Evil prevails when good people stay quiet. You are telling me the Law Association have nothing to say? You are telling me senior counsel have nothing to say? You are telling me that law professors have nothing to say? That former retired permanent secretaries have nothing to say? But that former politicians and prime ministers have nothing to say? My brother Bastio Pandey have nothing to say? You are telling me that political scientists other than Winford James have nothing to say?
Well, you emphasize my point.
Correct.
Because it is Damien that protect him.
It's very sad. Thank you, my brother. Blessings. But it's true.
Yeah.
We're Transparency International. Former commissioners of police, y'all have nothing to say? Y'all read Rowley's words? Rowley confessed it was him. Rowley confessed he did not want Gary, and there is no Gary. And he took steps to ensure that Gary would not top any merit list. That's an admission and a confession as clear as day of misbehavior in public office, and you only need backup information from Bliss. Hello? 218-7762, 218-7762. Good evening. Hello?
Yes, good evening, Anil, and all. Did I forget anybody? It's Corky.
Corky is here, yes.
Mr. Roberts, I'd like to ask a few questions.
Yeah.
It won't be long, right? The oxygen tank that Boudran found on one of the pockets on his way out, was it a full tank? Was it a used oxygen tank?
Okay,
How
pause.
did that oxygen tank got there?
Pause. Why are you...
Yes, sir.
If you're asking questions, pause, let me answer them now.
Well, only two.
No,
right?
hold on. Hold
on.
I getting old, you know. You want me to remember 4 questions first and foremost.
Go ahead.
No, it's not. It's a very important question. It's not funny. It's a very good question.
It's a serious matter too.
Yes, so don't laughing, all right? On their way, when they got down, 5 men were working in a dry space, okay?
I know, yeah.
So each one of the 5 men, there were 5 tanks, okay?
They
were rested down. Turn down the volume on the radio, right? They rest down those tanks in that dry area, and they were working because there's oxygen in that vacuum clear, sealed, pressure kept area, okay? That dome area. Something occurred that caused them and the equipment to get sucked into the pipe.
Yeah.
So the tanks were loose and all around, and they were loose and all around. From the account of Mr. Christopher Boudram, he was the last one basically sucked in. And behind him, injured, was Faisal Kurban. Now, Christopher Boudram and Faisal Kurban, somehow tanks were right next to them. So they had one tank each. Now, these tanks would have had whatever amount of compressed oxygen in it, minus what they used to get down into the chamber. So they would have been relatively full, let's say 80% and above. Okay?
But how long was that?
Hold on, I'm going slow.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
So according to him, Mr. Kurban and himself, they got sucked into a pocket, and then to move forward, which is to move backward, to move back towards safety, they had to go in. The pipe is undulating under the seabed. So the pipe is not flat along the ground like a ruler.
I realize
it
that.
goes
That's
like
why
a
they were flipped
mountain.
down.
It goes
That is why they were
up
flipped down.
and
Yes.
down, up and down.
Yeah.
So when it is on the down, it will be full of water where they cannot breathe. When it is on an upslope, there will be pockets at the top of the pipe that they can breathe without oxygen. So they were working their way through full pipe, air pocket, full pipe, air pocket. Boudram and Kurban were doing this while dragging along Yusuf Henry and Kazim Ali Jr. This continued for a period of about 3 hours and 12 minutes. Over that period, the tanks would have emptied. So, luckily for Boudram, when his tank was running low, he encountered another tank. So
how did that tank reach here?
That was one of the tanks. Remember, there were 5 tanks that were loose and on the ground. And they all got 5 tanks and 5 men got sucked into the pipe. Do you understand?
Yeah, I'm understanding what you're saying. But
hold on.
Through the autopsy,
hold on. Let's go slowly. We don't go to our autopsy yet. We have to take things slowly and logically. You are asking very good questions. So let's go slowly. There's no rush. So while they are moving back out, they encounter another loose tank. Whether it's God, whether it's luck, whether it's coincidence. Boudram then has this tank that is basically the same level that the others were at 3 hours previously. So if it was 80% full of compressed air, he got this fresh tank. At that point with his new tank, he decided to leave Faisal Kurban, Yusuf Henry, and Kazim Ali. Because he had one tank, Faisal Kurban's tank would have been nearly empty at that point. And when they moved from the air pocket into the full pipe, only Boudram made a heroic decision to go forward with this one tank to get help for his brothers. So he would have used that tank. Now when he reached back up to get back up in the chamber, it was about a 5.5 to 6 foot up slippery, and he could not get up. He tried about 6-7 times and he couldn't get up. Eventually 2 fellas were in the chamber and they pulled him up. And so he would have left that other tank, whatever was left in it, right there. So those 3 tanks, 2 that he used and 1 that Faisal Kurban used, were loose tanks that were movable. So when people try to tell you that these tanks were wedged and there was no way to get to the men because this was a blockage, that is totally false.
But remember, he say found the tank, you know. Is that what the tank they bring, you know? He say found the tank.
Okay, brother,
like,
pause. Stop! Hey!
Go ahead.
Stop!
Yeah, go ahead.
He didn't find a tank that come from anywhere. God, that was one of their tanks. He found it after they were all following. You see, you're not following. You're trying to go too fast. You're not listening. The only tanks that were in that pipe were the 5 tanks that were in the chamber with the 5 men. They were not tanks, were not on the men when they got sucked in.
Yeah.
So when he says he found the tank, it is not no new spreader tank. It's one of the 5 that they had.
Oh, okay.
Right. Okay.
It's just something we're looking into, right?
Yes, but you must
I'm
take your
not
time and
accusing
listen.
anyone,
No,
but
but you
it's a
must just
question that
listen
needs
to
to
the
be
facts.
asked.
Right.
Yeah.
Next
Okay.
question.
Well, I say, but according to what I said,
Yeah.
if that tank, because you say he was going up, and because it was slippery with the oil, another expert to know about this. Going up, it was slippery, he was struggling to get up, and he was assisting one of the hold on to that thing. But he said it was damage. But the autopsy show, according to what the interview say, that the feet were broken and the hands were broken. Did the autopsy show that? There's something fishy there, you know.
No,
We have to look
pause.
into this very carefully.
We have not heard or read the autopsy yet. But of course, that's what has to be done. You have to check the eyewitness report. But what he is saying...
Did somebody get that tank there, or did someone put that oxygen tank there? Something is fishy, you know. Anyhow, don't want to go further.
No, forget. Okay, but you're not listening. Stop talking about the tank.
Almost 3 minutes, Anil.
No, but you're not. There's a difference between listening and understanding.
Anil, don't rough me up now.
Yes, but I have to rough you up a little bit. Nobody put nothing, no tank. Those tanks fit into what they men had. They'd use the tanks to dive in the water. They were working in an area that did not require tanks. They took off the tank and rested down. So come off your idea of any tank.
If they rested down, right? If Boudram was going up a slippery slope, how did the tank reach up there before he come out?
The tank did not reach up there before he come out. The tank is down in the pipe. He left the tank in the pipe. And the men pulled him up. Hold on. You see, you ask a question and you don't listen. So you will go on the air and you will talk things that don't make sense. Wait.
Hey, Anil.
Wait.
According to you on the Express,
I love you, you know.
Looking into details. And
I love you, but you're not listening. You married? Are you married?
Well, I'm looking for somebody. Do you have anybody in mind?
No, because if you was married, I want to give your wife the Order of Merit of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. Because you don't listen at all. Eh?
I ain't getting Peace Prize, I ain't getting merit, I ain't getting no award. The only award they want to give me is the whole hospital.
You're too sweet. Later, my brother.
Anyhow, thank you.
All right.
There's more things I'm looking into, right?
Yes, we
you
will
all
look
have a good night and the listeners too.
But there's good questions, but he don't listen, you know. Good questions. Good questions. And the autopsy, we had to wait, Commissioner of Inquiry, we have to check. That's what has to happen to get the facts of what took place. Good evening.
Hey, Anil, how are you, my brother?
I am good. What's happening? Talk to me.
I am good. This is your brother, Brian Bates.
Talk, my brother. Good evening.
I am so glad to be back on here talking with you. You know, if you would crave my indulgence, if I make comments on this impact that they had with the former Attorney General and that of the CPC. Now, having worked there, I have to say that Faris Al-Rawi, after seeing the facts, so Faris Al-Rawi is not fit for public office. Because it is this belief that Faris Al-Rawi, as Attorney General, would try to get the Chief Parliamentary Counsel, that being Mr. Ian McIntyre, senior counsel. So he was appointed still in 2012. The man who is in charge of the unit that deals with legislative writing, to tell the man that to bypass the tradition of the CPC, which has been since the days of independence, that it is through cabinet, and you would have been a former cabinet minister yourself, that it is cabinet or the prime minister who would approve legislation to be drafted. To tell the CPC via the head to bypass that, you have to either be not sound in mind, you have to be either loose in somewhere, or you have to really and truly not understand your job. And clearly, we have a problem now. You reading from the facts that were shown via the media, that even the legal unit members of the legislative writing unit of the CPC is also saying that they will not take no instructions of the Attorney General. That is serious serious to look into. And the CPC, who is one of the most senior public officers, there is the case of Thomas versus the AG, right? That must also be reminded of. And now you have this gentleman who is now in a different ministry, who is now in charge of dealing with local government reform. And when that legislation has to be dealt with, he has 3 legal officers at the Ministry of Local Government. And I can speak on that, having been being a corporate secretary at 2 corporations of regional corporations. And those 3 legal officers will not be like the CPC, where they will be like dashboard dogs, where Faris could come and say, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. Change it. And all they will say is, okay, Mr. Minister, okay. Faris Al-Rawi must be removed from the cabinet. Because I could only think of, Lord, what else did this man do as Attorney General? And he's been this year, and let's talk about demoted. Faris was fired as Attorney General and then sent somewhere else because it's Faris Al-Rawi. Now he's sent to local government. And I have to say it. Faris Al-Rawi must be removed from the cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And Anil, you would know this, that the PNM has a history. That if you are, as a minister, has totally been embarrassing the government. Dr. Eric Williams did it, Mr. Chambers did it, Mr. Manning did it. They would be fired and removed forthwith. Now, if this is not done, and Dr. Rowley allows this man to continue being in his cabinet, sir, Dr. Rowley, then you must go. Because besides when you misbehavior in public office, but clearly you really are not seeing that this man is clearly breaching rules and regulations and even practice directions. So Lord only hope knows what this man is going to do as Minister of Local Government. He might call him Mayor of Port of Spain. He might call him Mayor of San Fernando. He might call him Mayor of Point Fortress. Hey, only don't do that. Fix that. Change that. You see that nonsense coming there? Don't deal with that. Or you see them UNC councils and them? Frustrate them. And also as Minister of Local Government, is he going to deal with the issue of non-payment of rent to UNC councillors? And that is an issue he must deal with. And if he doesn't deal with it, he has to go. I mean, Anil, I thank you for...
No, wait. Don't go, Brian Big, learned attorney. I want you to go through now. Because I saw some PNM persons trying to ask arrogantly, what law did Rowley break when he went to President's house? Please run through it for them from a legal luminary point of view.
Rowley,
thank you.
Dr. Rowley, what he did was misbehavior in public office. That is in law. He also breached the Integrity in Public Life Act. I don't have the section offhand, but I am... That
Section
is
26.
Pardon?
Section 26.
That is it, correct. And also via the Constitution, where the Constitution indicates what the chairperson of the Police Service Commission must do. And it must be, that merit list must go to the President. And that merit list must go to the Parliament. That is constitutionality. And there's also something in law called separation of powers. And the Prime Minister has clearly breached that as well. But by coming to Ms. Bliss-Prasad, and Ms. Bliss-Prasad, who does not have the cojones to tell Dr. Rowley, so with all due respect to you, you cannot come here and tell me that. You are a breach of law. But clearly, he is a PNM stooge, took it and left and went with it. And the President of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, a lady who I don't want to cast any aspersions on, but it is quite clear the President had to be aware of this. And the fact that Dr. Rowley, not once, not twice, but at 3 separate press conferences, said it wasn't me in 1, 2, he doesn't know anything about it, in the second one, and then the third one, he said, why are you asking me such a question, Jules, who he was asking from TV6? And then come all of a sudden, well, hey, it was me. I mean, it's ridiculous. Sir, you have been found wanting, and I really think, and I support the view of the leader of the opposition, that the Director of Public Prosecution must definitely get involved by asking for the investigation to be done But I want to see that DCP Jacob has the balls, the cojones. I didn't mean to use such coarse language. I do apologize. But you must understand that we are seeing a prime minister breaking the law. Then who is me and Anil? Who is you?
Shouldn't DCP Jacobs recuse himself because he's the beneficiary of the misbehavior?
Well, sir, whether or nonetheless, he still holds the position of acting commissioner of police, sir. And you have to now put your political shoes outside because, Mr. Jacob, you have shown some things that make people wonder.
Correct.
But nonetheless, because you came and say you're going to do an investigation with these divers. What are you investigating, sir? Has any criminality been established as yet? What exactly are you investigating? When there is to be a commission of inquiry. So, sir, the investigation needs to be done. It's on the Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you, my brother.
And let's just close off.
Yes.
Dr. Rowley, for God's sake, put back the integrity of the office of the Prime Minister. Sir, we follow Westminster style of politics. You have brought the office of the Prime Minister into disrepute. You must follow the rules of Westminster system, and you must resign now and resign forthwith.
Thank you, my brother.
Face investigation.
Brian Big, learned legal attorney. We join now with the United National Congress. Powerful young MP, brilliant MP working hard in St. Augustine is now at the podium. So we join and we cross over on douglAR Radio, douglAR Politics, U97.5 FM. We join the Monday night virtual. Listen carefully, take notes, discuss, unite to remove the evil that lurks our land. Good night. UNC virtual. Come in, Corky.
Local government would soon be the Ministry of Rural Development only. So I wonder if they give Faris something to take it back. And he would end up with all... At least he realized people is plant chocolate. People plant cocoa, and in Trinidad we have top quality cocoa in many parts of Trinidad and Tobago. Congratulations on realizing that. They don't plant chocolate, they plant cocoa beans. But if Faris Alwari believes that he could run local government with a set of fancy words, I want to tell you that a pocket square doesn't make a difference in local government. I want to tell you that local government is bread and butter issues. Local government is not about buttering your own bread. And we know that Faris Alwari has a well-established reputation of buttering his own bread. We know of the rentals for his family properties. It was since March in 2019, the leader of opposition called for a criminal investigation into Faris Alwari for alleged misconduct in public office. Because the Attorney General then and his wife stood to pocket over $23 million from the state's rental of a family-owned property in St. Clair. And that is only one property. Today, a regional corporation could barely get $23 million for their development program to build roads, bridges, and box drains within their region. The leader of opposition exposed that the spouse of then Attorney General Mona Nahus was the only, and the Attorney General himself were the only shareholders of the property which was leased by the government for $644,000 a month. And that deal gave them $23.18 million in their pockets, and they bought that property in 2006 for $2.5 million. So they well paid themselves. So Faris Alwari is known for buttering his own bread. He is also known for recusing himself. We have on record the Minister of Finance the Prime Minister and the Attorney General then, Faris Alwari, disclosing that Faris Alwari recused himself a total of 37 times between 2015 and 2020 from a cabinet, a P&M cabinet that was making the decisions that involved a conflict of interest to put millions of dollars into the pockets of Faris Alwari. It goes without saying that this man, who accustomed to buttering his own bread, when it comes to bread and butter issues, is ill-equipped for the job of Minister of Rural Development and Local Government. But who is going to protect the corporations from this man? This Rowley government is clearly imploding. There is no accountability. They are fighting amongst themselves and too busy imploding to run this country. The Attorney General was put out by his own Prime Minister. And you have to ask why. Is it because they only now realize his incompetence? They themselves have been bracing for him and making excuses for him for some time. There have been so much interference and inappropriate behavior, misconduct by this man who was the Attorney General. And the concept of transparency is totally lost in this government. But we want to focus our attention now on a reshuffle, a totally misguided reshuffle. And I tell you, local government is the arm of government that is closest to people. It affects every sphere of life. When this government is negligent in street lighting, when darkened areas leads to rape, murder, assault, and kidnapping of our women in Trinidad and Tobago, when front and center we have devastating cases, incident after incident. We had in a repo recently where the government promised to put in street lights and so on. The local government, regional corporations can play a role in that. And so the government's neglect of local government affects other spheres of life. The Rowley government has to take blame for their incompetence. Local government, through the regional corporations, are well placed to meet the needs and the targets. And we should really have targeted programs, particularly dealing with communities and their well-being, to protect our women from violence. Prevention programs, youth, sports, when you talk about education programs, and really reaching to the heart of a community, it is local government. And although other ministries will play a role, local government, regional corporations, and our councillors are best placed to deliver. And the government has totally failed our women and failed our young people. There are no opportunities for our at-risk youth through sports and education and skills training and jobs that can play a role in reducing crime and even gang recruitment. When the People's Partnership implemented those type of opportunities, there was a significant reduction in murders. And that is a matter of fact. That is not opinion. You can look at the TTPS records of murders in those years. And you know what happened when they went into government and they stopped those programs? They stopped those programs because they were UNC programs. And murders increased. And today, they cannot get it under control. The Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, the Minister of National Security, the Minister of Public Utilities, the Minister of Works, they all have a responsibility that impacts on local government. When you can't get a bus to go into a rural area, when our corporations can't have to pick up the bill because WASA is not sending water and they have to send water trucks to those areas in this day and age, sending water trucks. When our street lights are not working and our women are under attack, our women are vulnerable. All of these are areas that local government play a role in. So I am happy for the man who finally took a drive to the North Coast and discovered Blanchy shares. But at the same time, all of the PNM remain disconnected from the reality. And I listen and I observe the hypocrisy of this man who has now been appointed as Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. Faris Alwari is now boasting that he has come to implement local government reform. Faris, brothers, let me tell you, it is not now that the PNM only pays attention to local government when there is a local government election due. In every PNM manifesto, they promise local government reform, but it is only in an election year that they do anything. So you come now to talk about your fanciful plans for local government and local government reform. I want to ask, before your appointment, did you even know that local government has existed? What was your position? Did you ever attempt to make any paper, any draft policy, any legislation, take any note to cabinet to assist councillors in better delivering? Do you know that under the People's Partnership, the councillors were given a VAT exemption from the purchase of vehicles because vehicles are so important to doing public service and field visits on a daily basis. But you know it was important to purchase 3 brand new Porsches within the last 5 years. So that level of hypocrisy is what you come with to local government. And it is well on record. In September of last year, when the Police Service Commission imploded and the opposition raised the question about the relationship between Faris Alwari and a Police Service Commission member, Roger Kewal Singh, and the opposition had to write to request a police probe into the facts and circumstances surrounding the purported sale of a motor vehicle, a Porsche PCS 84, which was registered in 2016, which Mr. Kewal Singh was driving, and the opposition had to expose that. While you are getting VAT exemptions and customs exemption, and your friend is driving a luxury vehicle, did you ever once think about going to cabinet and putting a similar measure as the People's Partnership Attorney General Anand Ramlogan did to allow councillors to get VAT exemptions from their vehicles to go out on the field and deal with issues? That hypocrisy, Faris Alwari, will not fly. We also have in local government municipal police. Faris Alwari is well on record as well with another matter concerning Adrian Schoon and giving approval and police and calling a police station. I want to know if Faris Alwari ever gave serious thought to the PNM's broken promise of creating a deputy commissioner of police for municipal police. I said I will talk, but I want to tell you 2 things before I leave. Faris Alwari boasting that he is here to implement local government reform is also boasting that he is here to implement property tax, because Property Tax Act is one of those being amended in the new upcoming local government elections. So Faris Alwari is here to bring the harsh property tax to a reality, at least so he say. And this government has had 0 achievements in local government, 0. They are coming in 2022 when a local government election is now due, and they need something quick. They need something quick to tell you that they have achieved. So I want to put you on warning from now. The PNM plans to come with a grand plan to create 2 borough corporations, 2 boroughs. Diego Martin and Siparia Borough instead of a regional corporation. But I'm telling you from now that it is only a cosmetic change. It is only a name change. Why don't you go to Tunapuna Piako, the most densely populated region, and make Tunapuna a town center and make it into a borough? Why don't you go to Kuva Talparo Regional Corporation and make it into Kuva Town Center to Kuva Borough? And Kuva Tabaki Talparo is the largest geographic area. Why don't you go there and make boroughs? What is your rationale? Don't come with this mama guy where you want to create a borough and try to make people feel, well, okay, I'll give one to the PNM and one to the UNC because you're doing Diego Martin and Siparia. It is so transparent. The government has totally neglected and abused local government. Local government councillors continue to struggle in their corporation for basic amenities. Every time your car hits a pothole, just remember, the PNM has neglected local government. Every time your street light is not working, just remember, the PNM has neglected local government. Every time your drain needs cleaning and it is neglected, remember it is the PNM that has abandoned local government. Every time the corporation vehicles have no fuel to go out to do their work, remember it is the PNM that has neglected local government. And you will hear more because on Wednesday in the Parliament, local government reform comes to the Parliament, and I can tell you, my UNC colleagues, my MPs on the opposition bench are well equipped to deal with this debate coming up on Wednesday. So stay tuned, and I continue to give support to our UNC councillors who are leading the way in local government under the mentorship of Kamla Persad-Bissessar. I thank you this evening.
Everybody sing freedom, man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom, freedom. Everybody sing freedom, man and woman sing freedom.
Thank you, MP Amin. I hope Faris Alwari knows that in local government, you can't fake it till you make it. You had to come good. And given his history, I don't really have much hope. Our next speaker is a prominent attorney from San Fernando and a native son of San Fernando. He's a former senator. He serves as a policy and strategy officer for the party's national executive. And I also want to say, I think he's one of the strongest members of the UNC. The last conversation I had with him, this man told me he can bench press 500 pounds in the gym. So let's welcome the UNC strongman, Sean Sobers.
This is the revolution, the people's revolution. This is the revolution. I want to hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing.
Good evening to Honorable Political Leader Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar of Senior Council. Good evening to both members of Parliament, Houses of Parliament. Good evening to those locked on, viewing, listening, streaming on the World Wide Web. And a special good evening to our UNC family, who is religiously locked on to all of the different programs that we have on a weekly basis. I am here this evening because we would have had a myriad of issues coming alive within the media, different forms of media within the public, as this government continues to implode, as the last speaker would have indicated. And I think with all of these issues weighing in and weighing on the Prime Minister's shoulders, he had to do something. We in the UNC are saying that he had to distract from all of the issues taking place, unfortunately, with those divers, that tragedy with those divers in Paria, and all of the other issues with respect to rising crime and issues in Wassa and TSTT. And with all of these things weighing on his shoulders, what do you old people say? Confession is good for the soul. So he comes out and he confesses that he was the person who ran to President's house to have that merit list, that infamous merit list, retracted. Now listen, many persons within the party would have spent considerable amount of time speaking about this issue. We would have had the honorable political leader properly well prosecuting this issue, MP Munilal prosecuting this issue, and most recently at a press conference held yesterday, because we always have something going on here in the UNC, surgically and clinically, MP Hussein and MP Rambali dealt with this issue. So I won't spend too much time on that at all. What I would want to reiterate tonight is this. When you think about the constitution of the Police Service Commission and how their jobs are to be done with respect to procuring a certain instructions with respect to the legal notice drafted and done by the parliament, by the government, and then they have to go about this rigorous process to ensure a police commissioner is selected, and then they have to forward that list now to President's House. And the only time that the Parliament, that the Prime Minister, that the government, and anybody else other than the Police Service Commission would be well aware as to who is on that merit list and who tops that merit list is when the list is actually sent to President's House. So I want to squarely ask the Prime Minister tonight, how you know when Bliss Prasad was going to go to President's House? How did you know what the composition and constitution of that list would have looked like? How did you know that Gary Griffith was on top of that list? That forced you then to run to President's House to retract that list. Because you went there to retract the list. The President came out, because she had some questions to answer as well, and she indicated that the list was delivered. And then in a turn of events, the list was retracted by the Chairman, Bliss Prasad. And we are asking the Chairman tonight as well to squarely, why did you do that? Were you coerced? Were you instructed? Were you threatened in any way, form, or fashion? And if it is any of those three issues, you need to come out and indicate to the public, come clean, because that is misbehavior in public office. And the Prime Minister would then have some serious criminal questions to answer as it pertains to his conduct. We all know that in terms of providing information, as he likes to say that he did on that day, there's a particular way to do it. Reduce your concerns into writing. Many persons have said that to you. You have done that on 2 previous occasions when you had issues with the same Gary Griffith. So why did you clandestinely do what you did on that fateful day? Now that you've done that, there are certain inferences, negative inferences that can be drawn based upon your actions. And pursuant to all of this storm that has taken place based upon that confession, you had again, in the dead of the night, in the dead of the day actually, a cabinet reshuffle. MP Amin spoke about it, a reshuffling of a pack of jokers. And we have said that on a number of occasions, that we are not really satisfied with respect to that reshuffle at all, you know. All across the sectors, the length and breadth of this country, various ministries are failing. You have all these issues related to crime and criminality in this country, and Minister Hines is still there. You have this unfortunate debacle with respect to Paria and those divers, and Minister Young is there. You have all of these failures with respect to Cry Terry Dial Singh, and he is still there. You have all these issues with respect to TSCT and Wassa, and Gonzalez is still there. All of them are failing. And so a reshuffle is not enough. And we join with our political leader to say to you that the right thing to do is to call the election, because all of you need to go. Let the people decide who they want to lead them. And those persons to lead them sit right here in this room here, led by our political leader, Mrs. Kamla Prasad Bisesa. We won that mandate. But there's a particular joker that was reshuffled, that was fired, because I see a lot of people talking about demotion and demotion. Hey, he get fired. He get fired. He was sacked, as the English people like to say. He lost his work, right? So he was fired as Attorney General. And we know why. I mean, we've been saying it for a number of times, a number of reasons. This man has constantly brought poor legislation to the Parliament, wasted parliamentary time. You know how many sessions as a party we've sat down day and night procuring and preparing amendments to move to fix bad legislation that he has brought to the Parliament, just so that the end user, you, the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, get some good legislation. That's what we've been doing, and we've been indicating to you, we've been indicating to the Prime Minister and the government as a whole that Faris needed to go. So, he went. But now, based upon some literature that came in the form of a media release yesterday and some letters of which I have here, we know exactly why Faris was fired. In what can only be described as an unprecedented situation, you had Faris Al-Rawi, the then Attorney General, having an issue with someone called the CPC, the Chief Parliamentary Council. Now, some of you will be hearing about this. You're not entirely certain what is going on, who the CPC is, how bills are done, and I'll give you a little breakdown here tonight. So a bill starts through policy decision by the cabinet. The cabinet gets together, whichever ministry have a little bill that they want done to effect in their ministry, they go to cabinet, a policy is drafted, a cabinet note is drafted, it is then sent to the CPC so the bill could be drafted and then sent on to the House, be it the Senate or the lower house, for it to be properly tabled. That is how it is done. That is the precedent of this thing. And the CPC is the Chief Parliamentary Council. In this country, he's embodied in a man called Ian McIntyre. Now, Ian McIntyre is a well-respected fellow. He served successive administrations, I think about 5 or 6 attorney generals. And he's a senior counsel as well too. So Ian McIntyre is not as the young people say, he no jokey man. He know what he doing. And you had and there's a certain talk about Ian McIntyre. If you ever met the man, he has a very quiet demeanor. And the talk within the parliament is that Ian McIntyre doesn't say much. But when he does in fact speak, you better had listen, because he know what he's talking about. So you had playing out between these two parties, the AG and the CPC, a war of words, a tussle. And in and around September 2020 of last year, you had the CPC holding a meeting with his department to tell them, here what's going on. You are to continue with respect to the precedent that has been playing out in this country for decades, which is we only draft in legislation when a cabinet note or the prime minister instructs us to do so. We're not drafting any legislation when Faris say to do so. And what occurred around that time as well is that Faris Al-Rawi decided to say, to hell with the cabinet. He don't care about cabinet responsibility. To hell with the prime minister. He don't care about that man either. And to hell with the CPC. And he took a bill or a position that he sent to Jackie Sampson, the clerk of the House. And she as well too is a well-respected individual within the parliament. Many of us know her. And when she see this thing come in her email, in her inbox, she had to say to herself, this man is mad. How could you be doing this? Where's the input of the CPC? Where's the cabinet note to accompany this thing? And she included the CPC in the email. And the CPC had to tell her, you are doing the correct thing. We have to scrap this business. And what took place thereafter is that Faris take that as a diss. And the to and fro between the both of them continued until March 11th of this year, when Faris drafted a letter threatening the CPC, threatening to suspend him if he didn't retract certain instructions that he gave to his department, that he gave to the deputy CPC at the point in time, and that he now was supposed to follow unequivocally any order or instruction dictated to him by the real dictator, Faris Al-Rawi. And what did the CPC do? This man they call Ian McIntyre, this serious man, this senior counsel, well, he wrote him back. And here's what he said in his letter on March 14. I'll just take particular excerpts. Because people like to say that the UNC say, and the UNC this, and the UNC that. Well, here what's going on, brothers and sisters. We didn't say, McIntyre say. And look at here in black and white. So McIntyre say, I am constrained to report to the Judicial and Legal Service Commission the current impasse between the AG and the Chief Parliamentary Council, which has serious implications for good governance, the best interests of the legislative drafting department, and the capability and efficiency of all ministries and departments. That's what McIntyre say. McIntyre went on to say as well too, at a meeting of the legal staff of the legal legislative drafting department on September 3rd, 2020, it was agreed that the legislative drafting department would no longer facilitate the Attorney General's preferred modus operandi of drafting legislation without cabinet-approved policy instructions and retrofitting the policy to reflect the draft legislation. You hear what he's telling you there? You know what modus operandi is? Your general mode of conduct. So the Attorney General's or the former Attorney General's mode of conduct was to draft his own thing, give instructions without the cabinet approval, without the prime ministerial approval, and you must follow him. So this is no longer the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. This is the Republic of Faris Al-Rawi. That's what he wanted. And the CPC say, no, he ain't taking that. He went on to say, the CPC, McIntyre, not the UNC, it should be noted that the practice of drafting legislation on the basis of cabinet-approved policy instructions is a long-established and well-known principle and practice in Trinidad and Tobago and the Commonwealth. So it's not only in Trinidad. This thing happening all throughout the Commonwealth. It's not only Mickey Mouse, Trinidad and Tobago doing this. This is a settled and established precedent that Faris Al-Rawi wanted to do away with. These are serious implications. And what transpired thereafter is that in the correspondence, McIntyre also indicates that, listen, there are limited circumstances where we'll depart from that precedent. When there are exceptional circumstances like a pandemic, or if the Prime Minister indicates to us that he wants X, Y, and Z done. That's what McIntyre said. So clearly, with respect to this reshuffle, what we've taken from this correspondence is that Faris Al-Rawi thought that he was the Prime Minister, and Rowley, like he get a hint of that, and he decided to show him who's real boss here. Who is the Hefe? And he bump him down. He fired him as being Attorney General because he not only pretending, he acting and writing people as if he's the Prime Minister. And in particular, what really tipped this thing over the scales is legislation, right? So McIntyre thing of communication. So he coming to spy on you. And he don't want the cabinet to know that because he wanted to spy on them as well too. Right? And what happened? What happened? The CPC went on to say that Faris's actions would amount to certain things. It would have been inconsistent with the Code of Ethics under the LPA, the Legal Profession Act. Man, you are a lawyer for so long. You spend so long in law school. You don't know the ethics of the Legal Profession Act by now? He went on to say that Faris's actions would have bypassed the role and responsibilities of ministers, permanent secretaries, chief technical officers, heads of... He went on to further indicate Faris's actions would have resulted in many actions would have resulted in senior officials in the public service, which would further institutionally weaken, say, not the UNC, but the UNC supporting what McIntyre is saying. And after that, Al-Rawi then decides to write a letter threatening to suspend McIntyre for what he has said. We, as a responsible opposition, have been calling on the government to suspend the board of Paria during this investigation concerning that debacle, that travesty with those divers. They can't suspend that board yet. But Faris Al-Rawi doing the wrong thing, McIntyre doing the right thing, and he calling on him to be suspended. That is what I'm playing out for good governance in this country. The CPC eventually concluded by indicating that the Legislative Drafting Department is merely seeking to perform its functions with integrity, thing that Faris don't know about, professionalism, thing that he don't know about as well too, in accordance with a long-established principle of good governance and the standards of the legal profession. My grave concern is that if the coercive behavior of the Attorney General is allowed to go unchecked, the consequences would be disastrous for the Legislative Drafting Department, the public service, and the country as a whole. That is what McIntyre concluded by saying. And what we want to say and add to that tonight is this. PM Rowley, you knew what was going on. You were CC'd on all of these documents. And the best thing you could do is to move this man, to fire this man from the AG's office and to send him to local government. Playing musical chairs with a dangerous man like that, who has no respect for persons in the public service, is not sufficient. You need to fire him altogether and get him out. This is not Darrell Smith 2.0. You can't move him from one ministry and put him somewhere else because he'll go there and bully the people there as well too. It is imperative that you fire him now. And the United National Congress has gotten a mandate from its political leader. We are going to continuously call for the removal of Faris Al-Rawi from the parliament. He deserves no place there with this type of conduct that is in black and white. And we have told you this, that in amalgamation, the actions of the Prime Minister, the actions of Faris Al-Rawi are attacks on our constitution. They have no respect for the democracy, no respect for transparency, accountability, good governance, ethics, and public servants in this country. And we told you that. We told you that they would come for you. We told you as public servants, they are coming for you. When they came for Petrotrin, you all sat there and you did nothing. When they raised gas, you didn't quarrel, you didn't strike. When they come in for TSCT, you're not saying anything. When they come in for WASA, you're staying quiet. They come in for our constitution, you remain silent. They are coming for our public servants. It is time that you stand up and say yes. Say yes to the UNC. Say yes to the only political party that can bring good governance back to this country. Say yes to our political leader, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, who will ensure that all of those things, our constitution, our democracy, is safeguarded as a proper Prime Minister should do. I thank you, my friends.
Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy. And this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution. Come on, people. Freedom. Come on, people. Freedom.
Thank you, Sean Sobers. You can shuffle and reshuffle this pack of jokers, but we are only going to get one result: failure, epic failure. So it is time that you call the elections now. Trinidad and Tobago is asking you, call the elections now. UNC family, remember, you can invite your friends and family to tune in live on Radio TV Jagriti, and on our UNC Facebook live stream, our UNC YouTube channel, and our UNC Connect app. So please share. Our next speaker is a gentleman that everyone is familiar with. He is the chairman and a foundation member of the United National Congress. The man that has to teach the Minister of Finance, a man of the people. It is my privilege to welcome to the UNC virtual platform the Member of Parliament for Oropouche West, Mr. Dave Tanku.
Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one.
Political leader of the United National Congress, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, Senior Counsel, members of the viewing audience, my fellow presenters here tonight, citizens of Trinidad and Tobago all, I wish you a good night. Elections, ladies and gentlemen, as we are soon starting to realize, elections have consequences. You have heard speakers here tonight from this podium, and you have heard them from previous nights on this very same platform, telling you how quickly this government has taken this country down a road of no return. Elections have consequences, ladies and gentlemen. And if you ever doubted that, my brothers and sisters, look around you. Look at what our country has become. We have fallen, ladies and gentlemen, on every single indicator, every social and economic indicator of development and growth. We have fallen as a country over the last 6.5 years. We have moved, ladies and gentlemen, in 6.5 short years from a developing country with employment creation happening throughout Trinidad and Tobago to a state where every day citizens in this country are thrown on the breadline. We have moved from a growing economy under Kamla Persad-Bissessar, thriving business sector, a land of educational opportunity for all. We have moved from a country with a targeted social sector support program in place. We have moved from a place where crime was falling. That is where we have moved from. We have moved from a place, ladies and gentlemen, where we were building schools, police stations, bridges, fire stations, roads, throughout the length and breadth of this country. We have moved, ladies and gentlemen, from a place of equality and equity, from a place of hope and initiative, to this level of absolute hopelessness, frustration, and depression that Trinidad and Tobago is suffering from today. The reason for that, ladies and gentlemen, is because we have moved from a caring prime minister with a people-centered vision to an egotistical, arrogant individual who gloats publicly about breaking the law, about undermining the integrity of Trinidad and Tobago, of independent institutions, reportedly because he could not get an individual to spend millions of taxpayers' dollars, your dollars, to satisfy a personal political vendetta. That is the legacy of the PNM. And that is what they have delivered over the last 6.5 years. And that is what, unfortunately, we can expect to continue for as long as they remain in office. And it's not just Rowley. morning we have to wake up and we have to hear about some janjat, some bubble, some corruption involving this Prime Minister and this cabinet. And it is not just about Bacchanal, ladies and gentlemen, because it is your tax dollars that is funding their couture. It is your tax dollars that is jumping up. Ladies and gentlemen, between when you woke up this morning and now, this government has spent 159 million
Taxpayers.
of your tax dollars.
Every morning we have
Are
to
you
wake
feeling
up
that, ladies and
and we
gentlemen?
have to hear
In the
about
last
some
6.5 years,
some bubble,
Rowley,
some
Imbert,
corruption
Faris,
involving this Prime
Young
Minister
and their gang
and this cabinet.
have spent over
And it is not just about Bacchanal, ladies and
$330
gentlemen, because
billion
it is your
dollars.
tax dollars
That is
funding their couture.
$330,000 million dollars. Are you feeling that,
up.
ladies and gentlemen? Because you should.
Ladies and gentlemen, between
You see, when
you
they
woke up this
came
morning
in,
and now, this
they
government
inherited
has
a
spent
growing economy, a
159
developing
million
society, and
of
all
your
they
tax
had
dollars.
to do, the groundwork was already there.
Are
is
you
to
feeling that,
continue
ladies
the
and gentlemen?
momentum.
In the last 6.5 years,
With all these
Rowley,
billions being
Imbert,
spent, you think
Faris,
that you would have had
Young
some,
and their
some,
gang
some sort of
have
improvement
spent
in the quality
over
of your life.
330
You should have had better
billion
education
dollars.
system, decent
That
roads,
is
a better security system, social support,
$330,000
agricultural
million
development, a
Are you
reliable
feeling that,
water
ladies and
supply,
gentlemen? Because you should.
affordable and
You see,
accessible
when they
health care,
came in,
something,
they
ladies
inherited
and
a growing
gentlemen,
economy,
to show value
a
for money.
developing society, and all
But
they
this is
had
what
to
happens
do, the
when you put a
groundwork was
man in
already
charge
there.
whose focus
It's
is
a
not on the
continued
benefit of
momentum.
citizens, but the few and
With all
favored
these
friends
billions being
and
spent, you think
financiers.
that you would have had
This
some
is a
sort
man
of-
who would
some
pick up a
sort of
phone
improvement in
and
the
call
quality
his
of your
friend
life.
when he hears of a
You should have
report
had better
that his friend
education
was
system,
allegedly involved in a
decent
fake
roads, a
oil
better
scandal,
security system, social
but would not
support,
lift a finger,
agricultural
would not move a
development,
muscle
reliable
when he would
water
bounce
supply,
down a woman on a golf course,
affordable
or when
and accessible
4
healthcare,
tax-paying
something,
citizens
ladies
would
and
lose their
gentlemen,
life
to show
in a
value for
tragic
money.
incident.
But this is what happens when you put a man
And the
in charge
saddest
whose
part
focus
about
is
that
not on the benefit
is
of
that they are
citizens,
coming to spend
but the
more
few
of your money.
and favored
Well, ladies and gentlemen,
friends
if they
and
spend
financiers.
$330
This is a man
billion
who
dollars
will pick up a
in
phone
6.5
and call his
years
friend when
and
he
could
hears
not
of a
address the
report that his
problems
friend was
facing you,
allegedly
citizens of
involved
this
in a
country,
fake oil
in
scandal,
6.5 years,
but will not
what
lift a
you
finger,
think that is going to happen
would not move a muscle
for the next
when he
few
would
years
bounce down a
if
woman
we
on a
let
golf
them
course,
go?
or when 4
It will
tax-paying
get
citizens
worse,
will
ladies and
lose their
gentlemen.
life
I am
in a
curious too.
tragic
I want to
incident.
know from the Honorable Colm Imbert, how in
And
the
the saddest
world
part about
do
that
you spend
is that they are coming
billions
to
of
spend
dollars
more
and
of
still
your
manage
money?
to make
Well,
the
ladies and
economy worse?
gentlemen, if they spend
How do you do that?
$330
It
billion
takes a certain level
in
of
6.5
incompetence
years and
to
could
be
not
so
address
badly
the
off.
problems facing you, citizens
You know,
of
when
this
Kamla
country.
Prasad
in
Bisesa
6.5
left
years,
government,
what you think
the
that is
value
going
of
to
goods
happen
and services provided
for the
and
next
produced
few
in
years
this country
if we let
had
them
grown
go?
to $164
It will
billion.
get worse, ladies and
Today,
gentlemen. I am curious.
Today,
I want
after
to
6.5
know
years
from
of
the Honorable
Colm
Imbert,
Imbert,
how in the
we are
world
producing
do you
$30
spend
billion
billions of
less.
dollars and still manage to make the economy
This
worse?
contraction of our economy
do you do that?
comes from one reason.
It takes
It
a
is
certain
here
level
because
of
of one factor.
incompetence.
It is here,
to be
ladies and
so
gentlemen,
badly off.
because
You know, when Kamla Prasad
of a
Bisesa
crisis
left
of
government,
confidence.
the value of goods
And that crisis of confidence
provided
has
and
been
produced
generated
in
by this government
country
from
had
day
grown to
one.
$164
When Imbert ran
billion.
in front of the media
Today,
and started complaining
today,
and
after
started
6.5 years
crying
of Colm
that the
Imbert,
country was running on fumes.
we are producing
that it had
$30
no money.
billion
It is ironic that a
less.
country that had no money was
This
able to
contraction of our
receive
economy comes from
in,
one
in,
reason.
in,
It
in
is
revenues
here because of one
over
factor.
$50 billion
It is here,
in that
ladies
very
and
same
gentlemen,
year, proving
because
that what Imbert was saying
of
was
a
not
crisis
true.
of confidence.
But you see, this is what happens
and that
when
crisis
you lie
of
and you
confidence has
seek to
been generated
deceive.
by this government
The country
from
was running
day
on fumes,
one.
he said.
When Imbert
What
ran in
happened
front of
since
the media
is that he
and
started
started complaining
complaining a
and started
trend of
crying
activities
that the country
from
was
which
running on fumes,
investor
that it had
confidence
no
in
money.
Trinidad and
It is
Tobago
ironic that
has
a
been
country that
destroyed.
had no money
That is why
was able
businesses have been closing down. That is why people are losing jobs. That is why things have become infinitely more difficult in this country to make a living for honest citizens. That is why we have children coming out of universities with degrees after their parents and themselves have sacrificed to go to school. but are unable to find a job.
that he set
That is why we
in
have
place a
lawyers
trend of
driving taxi
activities
cars now,
from which
while the judicial system
investor
is
confidence
underfunded,
in
understaffed,
Trinidad
and is
and
failing.
Tobago has
That
been
is why we
destroyed.
have children
That
who
is
are
why businesses have been
doctors
closing down.
who are working
That is why people
quick
are
shops,
losing jobs.
while the,
That
while
is
the
why
health
things have
sector
become
remains
infinitely more
underfunded,
difficult
understaffed,
in this
and in
country to make a
crisis.
living for honest citizens.
But you see,
that is why we have
elections
children coming
have
out of universities
consequences.
with degrees,
and
after
we
their
are
parents
all
and themselves
suffering as a
have
result of this.
sacrificed
You see, while
to go to
all of this
school,
is happening, you
but
have
are
a
unable to
government
find a
telling you
job.
that things are
That is
getting
why we
more
have
and more
lawyers
difficult for them
driving
too.
taxi
Things are
cars
hard for
now,
them according to
while
this
the
government
judicial
because they have
system
no
is
money.
underfunded, understaffed,
They are
and is
telling you that they
failing.
must introduce
That is why
property
we
tax
have
because they
children
need
who are
the money.
doctors
They have no money.
who are working
They are
quick
spending
shops,
your
while
savings.
the-
They are
while
selling
the
your
health
assets.
sector
They are
remains
taxing you even more
underfunded,
because according to
understaffed,
them,
and in crisis.
they have no money. Well,
But
ladies
you
and
see,
gentlemen, that
elections
is an
have
absolute
consequences.
lie.
And we are
because
all
there is money
suffering as a result of this.
and they are spending the
while
money
all of
every
this is
year.
happening, you have a
Every
government
day, I
telling
just
that
told
things
you,
are getting
substantial
more and more
amount of
difficult
money
for them
spent
too.
every
Things
single
are hard
day.
for them according to this government
$150
because
something
they have no
odd
money.
$1 million per day.
They are
There's
telling
money
you that they
there.
must introduce property
But they're
tax
not
because they
spending
need
it
the
on
money.
you because
They have
you are
no
not
money.
the priority of this
They're
government.
spending your
Who are the
savings.
priorities,
They're
ladies and
selling your
gentlemen?
assets. They're
Friends,
taxing you even more
family,
because according
financiers.
to them,
That's all they care about.
money.
And
But
while
ladies
they're
and
spending the
gentlemen,
money,
that is an
you know,
absolute
they put
lie.
in the pocket
Because
of
there is
citizens.
money.
The Heritage
they are
and
spending the
Stabilization
money
Fund
every
was
year.
created by statute.
Every day, I just told you.
It was a
Substantial
Panday
amount of
creation,
money
not a
spent
P&M
every
creation that they
single
had
day.
claimed before. It was a Panday
150
creation.
something
It was
odd
created by
million dollars per day.
statute
There is
to allow
money
for a
there.
level of savings
But
of
they're not
energy
spending it
revenues.
on you because you are not the
Those
priority
funds
of this
have been
government.
invested
Who are the
abroad
priorities,
in
ladies
US
and
denominated
gentlemen? Friends,
investments
family,
by a board of
financiers.
directors
That's all they
advised
care
by
about.
professional and competent
And while they're
companies,
spending the money,
investment companies.
You know,
Now, by the time the
picking
fund had
pockets
reconfigured, had
of
been reconfigured in
citizens,
2007,
the Heritage and
it
Stabilization
held
Fund
US
was created by
$1.8
statute.
billion.
It was a
And
Panday
despite
creation,
the
not a
multiple
P&M
challenges
creation that they had
facing
claimed
Trinidad
before.
and
It was a
Tobago from
Panday
2007
creation. It was
to
created by
2015,
statute to allow for a level of
do you know,
savings
ladies
of
and
energy
gentlemen,
revenues.
that no other government
Those
interfered
funds
with it?
have been invested
It was
abroad
allowed
in
to
US
grow.
denominated investments.
It took 10
by
years
a
for
board
the
of
fund
directors
to reach
advised by
15 years, sorry,
professional
from
and
2007
competent companies,
to 2015.
investment companies.
It
Now, by the
took-
time the fund had
Sorry,
reconfigured,
from
had been
2000
reconfigured
to
in
2015,
2007,
15 years.
It
2000
held
it was first created.
US 1.8
It took
billion
15 years for the fund
And
to reach
despite the multiple
5.7
challenges
billion US
facing
dollars,
Trinidad and Tobago
which was the
from
value of the
2007
fund when Kamala Prasad
to
Mr.
2015.
admitted office.
Do
Remember,
you know, ladies and gentlemen, that
$5.7 billion in savings.
It was allowed to grow.
That was one of the multiple nest
It
eggs
took
that was
10
left for
years
Calm
for the
in
fund to reach 15 years, sorry.
One of the multiple
2007
nest eggs,
to
but he
20.
said it was bankrupt. The country was bankrupt.
It took
Under Kamala Prasad, the
Sorry,
successor,
2000
that
to
fund
2015,
grew by
15
$2
years.
billion.
2000 it was first
Would you believe that under Calm Imbert, that fund contracted by how much? $2 billion. What it took years and years and years, 15 years to achieve, to build over time. This man has gone in. And you know that every single morning we get up, we have to hear about Imbert dipping into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. And again, with nothing to show for it. Nothing to show for it. But international credit rating agencies are watching this. Because every time you extract money from your savings, they start to wonder whether or not you are able to meet your obligations. And that is why all of these international credit rating agencies have downgraded this government, have downgraded the performance of this Minister of Finance from day one. From 2015 to now, we have been continuously downgraded by international credit institutions. And that adds to the crisis of confidence, because what that downgrade means is that the international institutions, which advise investors, they believe that you are having a greater and greater likelihood of not being able to meet your debt obligations. So the government is borrowing, they're selling your assets, they're picking the pockets in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, and while they're doing all of that, they're taxing you some more too, without creating the space, without creating the basis on which they can pay back the the debts. Citizens are being penalized for this government's incompetence and lack of foresight, lack of planning, and lack of vision. You know, Imbert wants you to believe that there's no money. But I want to refer to you all, in the few minutes I have left, I want to refer to you all, ladies and gentlemen, to where the money went. Somewhere in Trinidad and Tobago, there's a man sitting down counting $400 million, money spent by NGC, that have been written off by this government. $400 million, somebody counting. It has been written off as if it never existed. And instead of holding the board of NGT to account, the Prime Minister says, hey, they have done a really good job. Because this government is about covering up corruption. But you know why corruption is dangerous? Because it robs you of assets. It robs you of the ability to have your children enjoy educational opportunity. It robs us of infrastructure. That money, that's that $400 million in corruption, could have been spent to fix every road in this country. It could have been spent to provide health care for every citizen, surgeries for every citizen. Every citizen. But you see, under this government, corruption has become a rule of law. As I wrap, ladies and gentlemen, I want to remind you of why this government has facilitated corruption. According to the office, the chairman of the Office of Procurement Regulation, Mr. Munilal Lalchan, Mr. Lalchan is on public record as saying on an annual basis, $5.2 billion of state contracts is lost through what? Corruption. $5.2 billion. All this government needed to do to be able to have the resources to do what they asked to do, what you expect from them. All they had to do was put the procurement legislation in place. But ask yourself now why they didn't. Why are they coming after workers? Why are they sacrificing employees of WASA? Why are they selling the resources of the state? Why are they selling off in landslide, fire sale? It is to their friends, family, and financiers. And that's why they are covering up the corruption, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I want to ask citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, this will not get better until we make it so. They have come after 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And as my brother Sean said, they came after many, they're coming after the rest. Unless and until we unite to get rid of this corrupt, incompetent, malicious government, Trinidad and Tobago will continue to suffer. We in the UNC stand firm behind Kamla Persad-Bissessar. We stand firm as a loyal, dedicated opposition to tell you that we will not take this line down. Join us, Trinidad and Tobago. Let us return this country to where it's supposed to have been. Let us restore and rebuild Trinidad and Tobago. Let us get this government where they're supposed to be, out of office. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you very much.
Didn't have a
Minister, First Woman Attorney General, First Woman to chair the Commonwealth of 54 Nations, First Woman Opposition Leader. Welcome KPB Plus, solid everywhere.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Thank you all very much. those who are here with us, joining us this evening, and all those who are locked on your various devices. Thank you for joining us once again. And let me first thank our two co-chairs, Alderman Kevin Gibbs and Alderman, and they say law, man includes woman, so Alderman Marissa, who is the deputy chair of our women's arm. MP Khadija Amin, strong and powerful contribution this evening. Sean Sobers, our brother, thank you for your contribution as well. Tim Gopi Singh, Dr. Gopi Singh, I'm listening to you again. I say you are like a walking encyclopedia as we're listening to all the things you just have in your brain. And of course, MP Tanku, thank you all for your contributions. All strong UNC soldiers, and I am proud to be here with these great patriots of our party and of our country. Between the time we last spoke, we saw the pack of jokers being shuffled in that excuse for a cabinet. The cracks are showing, as Rodney Charles told us, MP Charles had told us before. Look, they were in pre-collapse mode after the 14-1 loss in Tobago. Now, 4 months later, this government has imploded in office. That is very, very clear. And why have they imploded? Because they will listen to no one. They will take no advice, but they will continue on a pathway of destruction, on a pathway of dictatorship. And as others have told you, and we repeat to you, you have no care. They have absolutely no care for the ordinary people of Trinidad and Tobago. I want to take just one moment before we speak on some other matters to pay tribute to and offer congratulations to two of our sportsmen. Keishan Walcott, can we give him a praise up? Winning goal on Friday. And Jareem Richards, first Trini to win gold at the World Athletics Indoor Championship. And he broke a record of another great Trini, the late Dion Lendo, as we also remember his work in the field of sports. So we have great talent. We have great human resource in this country. But this government cares not and will not do what is right for all manner of men and women. Let me also say congratulations to all the students who earned scholarships in the recent exams, the CAPE exams. Brilliant, hard-working students who got their CAPE results. Congrats to all of them. Scholarships that they've earned. I know that the students had to overcome really tremendous challenges in these times with the pandemic and the on-again, off-again policies, educational policies by this wicked government, but they did well, and we congratulate them. Now remember, they awarded only 100 scholarships. Under the second best education minister of this country, I could take credit for being the first, but the second best education minister, Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, we awarded so many scholarships. Yeah, 500, thank you very much, 500 per year. Our whole thrust was that in education because we understood and still understand that education is the only passport out of poverty. Education is the only key to a better quality of life. And so a large part of the government I led, we concentrated on education. And before that, under the first UNC administration under Mr. Pandey, again, education was a priority for us because we understood. And here it is, they've cut down the scholarships because they don't understand that you have to reward the best and the brightest for a country to grow and to develop. They don't seem to understand that. They do not understand what it is to be rewarded for merit. Instead, you work in a different way. You created all these bursaries because you can pick and choose. The scholarships, you can't go wrong when you get a result. It is very clear who is the best and the brightest from those results. It doesn't allow you like you did before under previous PNM regime for the, what was it called, the scholarship slush fund. Laurel Izama one benefited, yes, Kirk, benefited. You know, always the secret way of governing and administering. They opposed the free laptops. Guess what? They actually got some people to believe that laptops were bad for children. You all remember that? They got people to come on that. In fact, the minister before had said, come in the parliament to say everything that was wrong with the laptop program. Today, we would have been #1 in the world in this pandemic. Should we have continued that laptop program, you would have had your devices narrow-minded, small-minded, no idea, no vision. And the only mission that they have is to, what Khadija called it, fill their pockets, is that what you said? Butter their bread. Butter their bread. So, all those years ago, remember when they opposed our children getting a place in a secondary school? That was under the first Pandey regime. That's why, Tim, I say I was the best, but yes, you were probably better than me, but under the Pandey regime, we built all these schools. We said every child must get a place. Not one child must be left behind. Built the schools, 48, Tim built 106. So we continued the education thrust. But no, in the pandemic, blame Kamala, blame everyone else. They slashed the scholarships as well. In education, they slashed the budgeted monies. They put it in the budget, but they don't spend it for that. MP Chanku told you they don't spend it, they spend the money every day, so many millions per day. 150 million, you said, per day. But it's not for you, it's not for your children. It demonstrates again the refusal to invest in education of our children, in our future. In a time when we have decreased employment, when we have so many parents without a job, no incomes, all slashed, the cost of living rising, skyrocketing, and so many simply cannot afford a tertiary education. But you slash not just the scholarship numbers, you slash gate. I have shared with you here how they've cut the gate, not just the amounts, but the numbers of students benefited from the gate. Many students' entire tertiary education future rested on the gate and on the scholarships. So to all students who overcame this exam, again I say well done to you, but I want to remind you, and I say to you tonight, I say it tonight. When we form the next government, we will again open the gate. We will again expand the scholarships. Because I do believe, as we all, every right-thinking person will believe, that education is the future, and the children are our future. So we will help you again when we return to government, and it will not be too long, because as we've all said, and we can all see, this government is imploding whilst in office. And listen, I want to say to my women's arm, let me hail out the women's arm of the UNC. Give them a hail out. Let us give them special recognition and respect for the patriotic work they're doing in keeping alive very important national issues. Yesterday, once again, they held a very peaceful march to make sure that there was justice for the divers, that all must be done and more to be done to protect women in our country. Faris, you failed again. Where is the pepper spray legislation? What happened to that? Crying crocodile tears, remember when that issue arose, all the candlelight vigils, yes, it's coming. Since 2017, we have been calling for the pepper spray, and just lip service. That's another reason you deserve to get out of government, to get out of office completely. Our women, our UNC women, continue to fight for change as we all continue to live in fear under this government. We have been reduced to prisoners in our own homes, but even then, the criminals are coming to your home. So not just outside, but in your homes. We are reduced to sit in docks at the mercy of the criminals under this government. So until things change, the women of the UNC will continue to fight. Well done again, patriotic soldiers. But I want to comment on something I'm seeing happening. Like there's some guys out there, they're just waiting to stalk the UNC women. They have become stalkers. Stalkers, I mean, it was the most, not just distressing, but I think despicable act to see. Very worrying, very concerning. That everywhere the UNC Women's Arm marches on, they are being stalked. And by whom? There are some men out there stalking our women, and they're doing so violently as well. That's what we saw happening yesterday. In a nation where women are attacked and killed every single day, these hideous, horrid, abusive men are coming to verbally abuse and physically attack the women of the UNC. What kind of men are you? You call yourself a man? What kind of man are you? How much lower can you go than these disgusting, abusive men to attack women? And the women were on a peaceful march, a peaceful protest, and they had the police permission so to do. What will you do there? These hideous and abusive men feel they can come, because it's a women's march, they feel they can come and assault the women, stalk the women, abuse our women. If our detractors have political ambitions, I want to tell you tonight that sending those despicable low life. The other night somebody gave me a word, lochos. Sending these lochos to beat and abuse UNC women. I want to warn you, you will not intimidate us. You will not intimidate the UNC women. They will stand up and they will fight. They will fight for issues. They will not physically fight you, because that's not our way. Violence is not our way, but we will stand up and we will fight for what is right and what is just. These abusive men, detractors some, are being sent by persons whom the UNC membership rejected. Remember that. They are being sent there deliberately because they were rejected by the membership and the rank and file of our party. These people have been out there, what do you say, putting up people, you're sending people. You think we don't know? You think we born yesterday? You think we're stupid and dotish like you? That you will stand up to cuss the UNC membership when you say, I want to be Prime Minister. Here a man went on TV, say he wants to be Prime Minister, some show. He wants to be Prime Minister. But in the same breath, he's calling the UNC membership sycophants. You want the sycophants support you? Are you for real? Is that how it works? Or are you kind and work with people and build together to get the people to support you? So you want to be leader of the UNC and you want to be whatever it is, Prime Minister. It don't work so. You have to support your party. You say you support country before party. Well, go to hell. Go to hell. Because if you cannot even be loyal to your party, then how are you going to be loyal for your country? How? That's why we say, Tim, you are a patriot and a soldier there. Tim has always been. He never left in the first place, so we don't even have to ask him to come back. But for these persons, I'm saying, over the last several years, I have purged the UNC of people who believe in caste. I have purged the UNC of people who believe in class. I have purged the UNC of people who believe because of your family connections, you should be there. We have purged this party from issues of dynasty politics, discrimination, segregation. That is not the way of the UNC. The UNC stands for equality and equity. That is where we must go, and that has been my job and that of the leadership of the UNC and the activists, all of us. That's where we must go. So forget this dynasty thing. Forget because your father was an MP, you must be an MP. Forget that it is that you feel you belong to a certain caste. There is no caste system in this country. There is equality for everyone. The UNC is now stronger than ever because we have people who work and who have been selected on meritocracy and discipline. I have repeatedly called for persons to come back and work within the party. Let us push the new generation forward. Let us push the children of the UNC rank and file into the leadership positions. This is what we must do. However, some selfish people prefer to seek to destroy the children of the rank and file members because they come from a different background. You believe they come from a different caste. MP Tanki always tells me, what, your father was a taxi driver. What's wrong with that? And guess why he was able to become in one of our positions, as in the leadership positions? Because he went to school and he learned. He got the education that he could use that now to help others. Many of us here, Saddam, I tell you, parents run a roti shop. What's wrong with that? But because you believe your father was an MP, you must be an MP. No, it doesn't work like that, Vasan. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So stop washing your mouth on the rank and file members of our great party of the UNC. I state categorically to those people who have been rejected by the rank and file of the UNC in their attempts to lead, that there will be no caste system in the UNC as long as I'm your leader. There will be no class system in the UNC as long as I'm your leader. There will be no family dynasties in the UNC as long as I am your leader. There will be no discrimination in the UNC as long as I am your leader. There will be no segregation in the UNC. As we say, all are we is one family, one family. To the detractors, put your selfishness and pride and come back and help us to push forward the next generation of UNC leaders. Let us work together to repay the support that was given to us by the parents and grandparents of this younger generation. We must repay our debt to the older generations of the UNC supporters by returning that support to their children and grandchildren. If you choose to be selfish and hateful to the same rank and file members who supported you before to give you high positions, then you should get your own permission to march and create your own march. Don't come and trespass. My members had permission to march, Where these hooligans came from, these stalkers, were they given permission to march? And so I call on the TTPS, do your job. When these hooligans come, when these loachers come, when these stalkers come, do you have permission? And if you don't, get thee behind me, Satan. Get thee behind me. Get behind me. This is a lawful country and we'll operate lawfully. We cannot complain about breaking the law and then you are breaking the law as well. No, we will not stand for that. The UNC effort is so strong that even detractors who love to cry us down for everything we do, they now cannot make sense when they try to defend the PNM. Some have even resorted, you know what some of them are doing? Tank? No. They're interviewing a man from a prison cell in Suriname to wash his mouth on people in Trinidad and Tobago. How much lower can you go? Do not come and pull along the placards of the UNC women. Go and get your permission and go and march. It's a free country. I have no problem with anyone having a difference of opinion. It's a democracy. But don't stalk the UNC woman. Do not come and disrupt what they're doing or try to disrupt. But the UNC women are solid like rocks. Solid everywhere. When you saw them, they were not bullied. You tried to bully them, but we are strong. Solid as a rock. And solid as rocks everywhere. They're so deluded, some of them. But if Rowley tripped and fell down on the ground, some of these detractors, you know what they would say? That was a great strategy by Rowley. Great strategy by Rowley. Rowley fire Faris, great strategy by Rowley. Rowley put Faris in local, great strategy. Are these guys, I don't know where their brain is, what they think about. What do you think about your hate? Your hate is so tremendous. But I think some of these people they need some love. So the UNC women have plenty of love to give everyone. And the UNC men too. That's how we operate. Not fight and hate and vitriol. That's not the way forward. Anyway, it is proof that even detractors are seeing what is happening. That we, the UNC, is on the way to rescue our nation, to restore and rebuild Trinidad and Tobago. In the meantime, Women's Arm, go brave, stand tall, demonstrate peacefully, non-violently, and in keeping with law and order. So, to you, we stand firm, we stand solid as rocks. Stand strong, Marissa, Khadija, all the other UNC women, of course, with our brothers. We go forward, we go brave. Well done to all of you. Tonight, there are so many issues. Every week, which ones do you select? What do you speak about? That's why we have several speakers, a battery of speakers, so that we can get different points of view on different issues. So, the Police Service Commission, several of you have spoken. Sean was very good on that tonight, as others. So I will not spend too much time on speaking of the Police Service Commission again, and the fiasco there, and the interference by the Prime Minister and by the President. Let's not leave out of this, Because as Sean asked the question, how you end up there by this house at the same time, this merit list? Who told who about the list? Who told you it was Gary and you're coming to complain about Gary and so on? All of that is not water under the bridge, and that issue is not going to go away, where Prime Minister is interfering with the independent institutions of our land. Now, why? Why would he do that? Why we run down my president's house and drink some coffee or have some tea or something, and then talk to Blissy Prasad, take them a list, give them all kinds of advice? What happened on that fateful day? Why would he do it? At first we said, well, it's because he wanted to get out Gary Griffith. Was Operation Get Out Gary Griffith? Maybe yes. But to do what? To then have maybe no substantive commissioner of police. Why? Why? Because if you don't have a substantive post which has security of tenure, then you are in the pockets, in the hands of the whims and fancies of the cabinet and the prime minister, who will then keep renewing your contract. Keep renewing. Because you're acting, so we renew you to act again and to keep acting. And when you're forever acting, you're beholden. A puppet on a string. Thank you, Khadija. You're a puppet on a string. That's what you hope to achieve. So once it's to get out Gary Griffith, we have to look at these fellas are very devious, to get their own way. We talk about how in every way they interfere with independent institutions, in every way that they attempt to break and hold and to control. And look, the latest revelations with the CPC. Look what happened with the CPC. Look, that CPC has had decades of working in that office at CPC. He has served under many persons who was Attorney General in our country. When I became AG under the Pandey regime, albeit it was a very 10 days kind of AG work, but the protocols were there and we had to work and do it in a certain way. Mr. McIntyre was the CPC. When Mr. Ramesh became the AG, he was still the CPC. When Anand Ram Logan became, he was the CPC. When Faris became the AG, he was CPC. So how come things went so wrong under Faris? And why? So I have a new name for Mr. Faris tonight. Mr. Faris al-Bully. He was bullying the CPC, but the CPC, in honor of the job that he holds as a senior draftsman in the government, he stood his ground. And he was not afraid to let Faris know, look, you just can't. This is not business al-Rawi, This is not business per al-Rawi, This is business according to the law and the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago. Sean read several of the extracts for us tonight of what was going, the bullying that was taking place as Faris tried to get rid of Ian McIntyre. I have known Ian McIntyre as a law student. I've known him in the profession as lawyers, and then I've known him when he was CPC and I was Attorney General. He is one of the most decent human beings you can find. He's one of the most decent human beings you can find. And he's not a UNC. He's not a PNM. He's an officer of the state, an independent officer of the state. That's why he could have worked with so many persons as AG, who were AGs, and he was in the CPC department. So I want to raise something here tonight related to this. Bully, Faris al-Bully, bullying McIntyre to do his bidding. McIntyre stood his ground. But you know what happened? Very bad law came to be passed in the parliament. Very bad law. Let's back up. Faris was the man who told this country, the most dunce attorney general you could ever meet, told this country they have no rights to privacy. So you could come to the parliament and don't care whether you have private rights or don't have private rights. No rights. And so from day one, he kept bringing legislation to the parliament. Either, one, excluding the requirement for the special majorities, remember that? And alternatively, removing, where there was such a provision, removing it. So let me share with you some of those pieces of legislation. Several pieces of legislation. I have identified in this short time about 9 such pieces. Let's go. The Anti-Gang Amendment Act number 4 of 2021. We voted against it, but they passed it because there was no special majority. We raised the concerns that it required a special majority. No, not according to Mr. Surat Faris. And remind me before I forget about Surat, because the most important matter is being heard at the moment before the Privy Council relating to Surat. I'll come back to Surat. So Faris's explanation was using the Surat argument. Every one of these, when we said, no, you need a special majority, he comes to the parliament. No, 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 no. Legitimate expectation, legitimate aim. Surat, 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 Surat. No, I didn't say Surat, you know. I said Surat. Surat. Anti-Gang Amendment Act number 4 of 21. No special majority. Interception of Communications Amendment Act 13 of 2020. No special majority. I think Sean mentioned that tonight. Very important piece of legislation because you're going to be breaching privacy rights by intercepting your communications, whether by email, whether by WhatsApp, whether by phone, whether by all the other ways that you can do it. The Miscellaneous Provisions Act 8 of 2017, again, removed the special majority, passed it. Passed it. You see, Mr. Surat, all these will come back to haunt you. Because each one of these will get struck down in the courts because they were badly passed. The Income Tax Amendment Act number 18 of 2018. The Evidence Amendment Act number 1 of 2021. The Public Procurement Disposal of Property Act 27 of 2020. You remember that's when they came to amend the procurement law to remove, guess what? Legal fees, legal services, no procurement. To remove financial something, that's like the thing with the NCB, the banking matters with Stuart Young's family. No, 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 you don't need that. Didn't need it for that. Legal services, financial services, they removed that without a special majority. And medical as well. I think somebody's telling me one of them have some interest or shareholding in some medical services. I'm not calling name, you know. But one of those guys in the cabinet. So they removed that as well from proper procurement legislation oversight. Gambling and Gaming and Betting Control Act number 3 of 2021. Again, no special majority. Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority 21. No special majority. Tobago House of Assembly Amendment Bill 21. And CPC McIntyre spoke about that. He spoke about it in one of his letters about how they were going about to increase the number of seats in Tobago and so on. He spoke about that. The recent one, the Whistleblower Amendment Bill, well, that was stillborn, debated and is dead in the Parliament, reached committee stage. They have not resumed on that. And that one was a very dangerous one. In this one, the CPC, the same Ian McIntyre, had told the Joint Select Committee of Parliament that it required a special majority. It had no special majority in it. Required it. Well, poor fellow, I think they sent him on vacation leave and all these other bullying tactics that they use. But he was right. So when they brought it back recently, they did put a special majority, but it was only a 3/5 majority. And I blasted it, and we did in the Parliament. You wanted to take away the right of access to a court of law from any person in this country. That is a fundamental right. Access to a court to have your rights and obligations determined. They removed that. That doesn't need 3/5, that needs like a 3/4 or even 100%. You cannot take that right, because the day you take away a right of a person to go to court to have their rights and obligations determined, then we are into a total chaotic state. We are no longer democracy. We're into full dictatorship. The court is a bulwark. The Supreme Court is the guardian of our Constitution. You cannot take away the right of an individual to go to court. And that's what they did with this whistleblower bill. So whatever they want to do, they think they can just run roughshod, but it catches up with you. And so here it is, Mr. McIntyre. All these times when he's having this bullying coming out of Faris, what happens? Faris ends up in the Parliament with bad law. Now, you say bad law don't affect you, but the day you see something happen to you and you cannot go to a court of law to have your rights determined, well, then you'll know what Faris was up to, that we can't go to court even though all our rights are being breached. That was a penultimate, I think, betrayal of the democracy of Trinidad and Tobago when you attempted to take away the right of an individual to go to a court of law. Very, very serious matter. So we could go on about these matters. And talk about Faris and where he went and didn't go and all these other things where they've put him. Khadija will deal with him. I want to tell you something about this local government matter. He was the second man in the cabinet. In fact, a cabinet is not comprised or properly composed if you do not have the AG. So it must be Prime Minister and the AG. When you take out a man as an Attorney General, you somebody say demoted, someone say fired, something has to be really, really wrong. Because out of your two people, you don't have to have another minister, but two of these can make decisions for the country. You took him out. Now this has been happening, you know, it's poetic justice. On the very day Faris was fired, it's the same date in 2015, the front page of the Express has my call for Faris to be fired. That was how many years ago? Huh? Karma, Tanko is telling me. Very sad day, but how many years later? 7 years later. And look at how much bad he has done in that 7 years. What has happened in the investigation with children toting guns? What has happened to that? What has happened with the car registration? Khadija spoke about this Porsche. Somebody told me he drove up with this Porsche to go up, what, to plant chocolate? Khadija said he went to plant chocolate. She's in the ground. And he drives through all over and he poses them in little children. What about all those children you pass with, all those roads, all those potholes, every piece of road you pass through? You're local government now, you know. When I said, all right, you know how to deal with the rats and the rodents and the box train and the potholes and so on, it was not in a bad way. I came from local government, like a teacher. I came through from local government. I know how hard it is to be a councillor, to be a local government practitioner. You get flood out, any hour in the night they're calling you. Councillor, it's true. They get overrun with mosquito, that's your problem. The drains overrun, whatever, that's your problem. Local government is a hard job. And I can see Khadija has some nice lines sometimes. What you say? Pocket square? I can't see the pocket square man going down in those drains, going in the flood. Has he even gone in a flood? He has a constituency. Never. Never, you'll never see him reaching out to people. So we wish him good luck, of course, knowing that given his attitude and his manner that he will fail. And I told you to remind me about Surat, but so we back to the rats and the rodents. No, Sean. Surat. What was Surat about? Surat was Faris's excuse for the past 7 years to deprive you of your rights, your constitutional rights and freedoms. He used that case, one Privy Council case, which said, okay, you can pass and breach rights as long as there was a legitimate expectation. Thank you, Sue. They're saying I'm sweating. Thank you, Sue. Yeah, Surat was a case, Privy Council decision, in which they held that it had to do with the Equal Opportunities Tribunal, and it was not passed with a special majority. So it went up to the council and they said, okay, you know, in some cases you can have, once you have a legitimate expectation, legitimate aim, the Surat principles as they're called, that's okay. It will stand. But today, again, the best Attorney General our country has ever had, Anand Ramlogan, today is arguing a case at the Privy Council which is challenging the Surat principle. This is going to be a very important judgment because it means, depending on what happens there, all these things I've just called for you, all those pieces of law will be bad law. Every one of them will be struck down by the courts. So Anand is challenging two very important legal principles, and you say again, nothing to do with it, has plenty to do with everybody here. It was about people who were arrested and charged for not wearing their masks, pursuant to the public health regulations made by the one-tier minister, DLC. It was made under the 1940, look how long ago, public health ordinance. Those days they were ordinances. And the minister purported to make these regulations, as they were, lock up the fellows and charge them and blah, blah, blah. And Anand and his team, on behalf of Suraj, not Surat now, Suraj and others, challenged the regulations on two grounds. One is that it is not saved law. Constitution says if the law is saved, good. It was the law in 1940, so it's fine now. So the argument there is whether that is saved law. Now, how could it be saved if it was never there? The lawmaking power of the minister is saved, but not to make regulations in contravention of the Constitution. So if you have to do that, you come back to Parliament and get it. And the second, so the savings law clause is going to be really interrogated and decisions handed down. And the second issue has to do with the legitimate Surat principles, or if you need the votes of the majority. Farris's position has always been, look, we don't need it. We have the Surat, we have the legitimate whatever. So I think this is going to be what you call a watershed case for the law in Trinidad and Tobago and interpretation of the Constitution. So I congratulate Mr. Ram Logan, whichever way it goes. It was a point that we needed to have adjudicated ever since Surat, that we could get a clear interpretation of the law of Trinidad and Tobago. It has very far-reaching consequences. So on those matters, I want to thank you all for your time. I want to say we are here, we are solid. I am solid as a rock. We are all solid as rocks. We commit to working together. Anyone wants to come, welcome. Who don't want to come, do come. It's a free country. But every day I'm getting more and more phone calls, text messages. I could pick up the phone and show you. Many people, they want to come forward, join with us and work with us. So I want to say again, welcome. For those who have our country at heart, for those who have our children at heart, for those who have our future at heart, we welcome you aboard. Reach out to us. We will reach out to you. We will work together to restore and rebuild Trinidad and Tobago. And whilst we are doing that, MP Tanku talked a lot about the economy. But there's a very interesting matter that Tahaka has pointed out to me that I will share with you before I close, and has to do with oil revenues. Your Prime Minister, or the Prime Minister, last week on TV, and he'll be on again tomorrow, I believe, with his conversation things, last week crying about production of oil and gas and whatever, shortage of oil and production drop, and therefore we don't have money and we can't do this and that. And well, in the first place, whose fault it is that the production has fallen? Whom? Pandemic? What pandemic has to do with production numbers? Nothing. Nothing whatsoever. So he's crying, oh God, well, we wouldn't have no money and production fall. But that's not the issue, Tahaka reminded me. The issue is not production. Yes, it's part of it. It's part of it. Because if you have production shocks, it's going to affect your revenue. But the issue is about the oil revenue and the gas revenue. And if you've been following what has been happening with the prices, those have gone up. But it's not just the price, it is the revenue, total revenue. So we saw the prices spiking recently. And the government has a duty in law under the HSF Act. Tanku spoke about that for us, how much money we had put, how much we had left in the HSF, and they've only been drawing down. That they have a duty in law that where the oil revenue exceeds the budgeted revenue, so if we were supposed to get $10 and we get in $100, I thought you must put, what's it you told me? 6. If it's 10% above the budgeted revenue, and it will be, because when they have budgeted at $65 or something, so total revenue will be X amount, 65 X amount, you have to take, if anything is above 10% of that budgeted revenue, you have to take 60% and put it in the HSF, the savings fund. And when you do that, you also have to produce a report. So you don't just put it, you have to report to the Parliament. Tell us what were your revenue numbers. So come and cry about the production revenue from oil and from gas. And tell us where is your report, because you have to do it 1 month at the end of each quarter. And the last quarter ended last year in 21, the revenue would have been higher. So what are you doing with that money, Colin? Keith, what are you doing with that money, Mr. Rowley? Where is the oil revenue? And how much have you taken out to put in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund? You have to lay that report according to the law of Trinidad and Tobago. So it's not enough for you to do these Tuesday things. I don't tomorrow come and cry about some other price drop and what didn't drop and they didn't get money from this and that and the other. That's not enough. You're failing in every single duty you have under the Constitution and under the law. And whilst you pull out Faris and you give him a bly, why are you leaving Hines there? Why? Crime is at the highest. Why is he still there? Tim talked about the COVID reports. What have you done about that? Why is Wantier Diarsing still there? Presided over total mismanagement of the COVID pandemic. To mention it, I repeat again, we will do a commission of inquiry to find out what you've done for management of the COVID and expenditure in the COVID period. So you're not getting away. Kevin will have a nice expression for that, but they say every rope has an end. And something rope for maga goat or some, whatever the words are. Long rope for maga goat. Well, your rope is coming to an end. We will continue to fight, we will continue to work, and we will not rest until you are legally removed from political office so we can restore and rebuild Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you all. God bless you. Have a great night.
Need the kind of love that can outlast the night. I need the kind of love that is willing to fight.